once mighty army of Azeroth lay among the blackened and charred remains of Stormwind Keep. Those that escaped fled across the Great Sea, bringing tales of the suffering they had faced at the hands of the Orcish hordes. Eager to engage in battle once again, the Orcs constructed ships of war to bear them across the Great Sea. The Orcish warriors yearned for the sounds of battle to fill the air and looked to the far horizon for new blood to spill. Using the weapons forged by their new allies, the humans made haste to prepare for the onslaught. While dwarven cannon were being loaded, others armed themselves with elven steel and mail. United in arms with new allies against a common foe, mankind stands at the shores of destiny and awaits the coming of the tides of darkness. The once mighty army of Azeroth lay among the blackened and charred remains of Stormwind.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Wow, that was some intro. Hello, Bellingham and the internet. It is your headmaster at the GQAzndood Gaming Academy, back with another class session for y'all, jam-packed with goodies. And I wanted to kind of start off this show with a super hype intro that I believe was one of my favorite intros that got me hype playing that game. If you can guess it, fantastic. Put it in chat, and I would love to kind of see what your guesses are. So at the same time, welcome to the Gaming Academy. And tonight we got a jam-packed episode filled with a hot debate on physical game copies. We love those here. But tonight we're going to be focusing on a few specific things. We'd like to kind of chat about some of the certain games that just came out recently. This one called I believe... oh yeah, Marvel Rivals. If you're been living under a rock and you don't know what Marvel is, make sure you check that out. Marvel Rivals is one of the more competitive games out there, very similar to like Overwatch and Concord. But there's been a few hot releases recently, including Path of Exile 2, and also we're gonna say farewell to Suicide Squad. Killed the Justice League that killed itself. So we got a jam-packed episode tonight. We're also going to be doing another What's Your Deal on the show, or if it's your first time here, it's a segment where we help you snag the best gaming bargains on the internet for this week. Also, we'll be doing a what you're playing, what's your price, and now playing. So where we talk about the games we're playing now, and also what price would you buy that game for. So with that said, we got a lot to cover. As always, we try to keep this show around 2 hours. So if you're out in interwebs and you're hanging out with us, pleasure to have you. So with that said, I want to introduce to you part 2 of the triad here, of the triple triad. My man on the street, the man of the plan here, Blazing Ace Nelson. What's up?
I'm freezing. That's what's up.
It's a cold out there. That's for sure. Ain't playing around.
That is a surefire sign that we're getting into the Christmas shopping season. But what's good, everybody? Welcome back. Welcome back. Great to have you here for another session. This week has been kind of action-packed in terms of game releases, and we're looking forward to discussing all those with you, and then some, as we move forward with this session.
Yeah, there's a word on the street. That's a good. I love saying that. Word on the street that there's 2 big games that came out this week almost simultaneously. One of them is Marvel Rivals, right? And Marvel Rivals had a playtest. I think a lot of people in my I guess in my friends list, they tried it out because it was free. And in addition to that, Path of Exile 2 came out as well. And if you've played the first one, it is pretty much the love child of the previous developers of Diablo 2. So what happened was when Diablo 3 got announced and released, they didn't really like the direction the game was going. So they said, we're going to take off and make our own thing. And I think that's always a good call if your drive and your passion isn't really matching with the company that you're working for. Like they're like two paths of exile, right? Mm-hmm. If their paths are not kind of together, it's good to take your own direction and make your own game with your own team. So this way, you're not forced to make a game you don't want to make. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think like at the same time, speaking of, there's been a lot of talk in the industry about developers versus publishers, and is it the developers' fault for making the games the way they are, or is it the publishers' fault for forcing specific things in their games? And I think this is why I also wanted to talk about Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, because we all know that Rocksteady made the Arkham games and they were fantastic, right? Mm-hmm. Like worlds full of detail of Batman characters, very interesting. Even characters that weren't really even in the main game were interesting. I can just remember like finding out Hush was in Arkham City, and I was like, he wasn't even there, but I feel like I was like, wow, Hush is in this game. That's cool, like they just did a really good job of immersing you in the world of Batman and Gotham. And when they transitioned that to the Suicide Squad in Metropolis, it didn't really go so well. So, I'm kind of wondering like why the big jump in kind of like the tone and also the style of game for Rocksteady, right? I'm curious about that. So
I kind of want to sum up the answer to that with, two basic, with two words that pretty much usually tend to spell the death knell for any franchise. Executive meddling.
Yeah, no, and here's the thing too, like I've been watching a few other YouTubers and podcasters online, kind of getting what their feedback is and their thoughts on this issue. And a lot of them are a little bit more scorched earth. Like, for example, like they say it's from the top to down. And there's a little bit of truth in that, because like the top make all the decisions, they pay the people down below, right? Technically. So if the top says, you got to do this is what we want, because investors, right? Because it's all about making money. And then, if I was Rocksteady and I go, well, we don't really make that kind of game, but like, I understand, but like historically we have made games of that, like, from that world, but we just we don't have experience in making that kind of game. Imagine if you had Bungie, right, was forced to make a fighting game. Like, think about that for a second, right? It's like, yeah, they're good at making Halo, but like right now the trend is fighting games. That's what's hot on the streets, right? And Microsoft says, let's jump in there, let's make a fighting game, and Halo's really popular. Let's get in there, right? Do you think Bungie will make a good fighting game if they have no experience making fighting games, right? And that's the problem with that, is the publisher or, executives go, we need to do this because that's what's hot, right? And then you're forcing a team that's good at making first-person shooters, and they're going, well, if we don't do this, we don't have a job, right? So we just kind of have to bite the bullet and do it. Unfortunately, the internet's not so kind, and they don't really know how it works. And so therefore we will all make only assumptions of such topics and only blame those that are responsible, right? Like that's just kind of how it is. Unless they give us the breakdown of how things work and, the decision making of these games, it's kind of hard for the internet to kind of come together with a conclusion, because we're all just speculating, right? Mm-hmm. All right, we got Anis. I don't know if you're there. If you can keep an eye on the chat, there's a lot of people chatting there, so that'd be awesome.
Yeah, actually, just taking a quick look. Jagos Shop, good to see you both. And Jagos did mention that. Is there any way that I can like highlight stuff from the chat to throw it up on screen?
I'm not sure. You might have to just chat chat on your end there. Also, if you've noticed, we're missing the third wheel of this tricycle. And unfortunately, Nick had a sports injury because he's so athletic, so macho, unlike us gamers over here, that he was not unable to comfortably join us from his gaming setup. So we'll miss him, but he'll be back next year. It sounds like it's so far away, but it's really not. We only have about 20 days left in this year. So that means day one, January 1st, man, we just start over and just keep grinding it out again.
Yep. But as I was going to mention, Jacobs did make a interesting point that Digital Extremes had actually tried something similar as far as, trying to get into something outside of their wheelhouse, or at the very least, as was the case with Airship Syndicate and Wayfinder, being the publishers, the money people in that situation, trying to get a studio that's known more for ARPGs and RPGs in general to make a looter shooter, and tried to monetize on that, and it did not work. Oh, they also did try a fighting game too.
Well, like for example, which company was it that did Way of the Warrior, or was it something like that back in the day, where they weren't really was it Naughty Dog? They made a fighting game back in the day. And we're like, why would Naughty Dog make a fighting game? That's so weird, But they made Crash, and they made like Uncharted. So it's kind of wild what they've kind of dabbled into in the past, right? And I mean,
it's one thing when certain developers that are well known for a specific genre of game actually publish something that's outside of their wheelhouse.
It's definitely like a risk. Like, because like, for example, if they've never done something like that before, and they have no prior experience in general, right? If I was like, I want somebody to make me a fighting game, and I go to like, well, I don't really know a lot of companies out there, but I really like Bad Dudes. It's a brawler, right? So maybe like I'll go to those guys, and then make me this fighting game, and 90% of them probably don't know how to make one, right? So it's tough, and all I'm saying is that, like, I think gamers just need to chillax, right? And I know, like, there's some crazy people out there, and when I mean like gamers, it's a blanket statement, not everybody, but the stereotype is that we're all kind of crazy out there. We're like rabid fans, and we send death threats and all those crazy things that people do to these guys because we didn't get what we want. So we act like spoiled kids, and I want to share to the internet right now, the Gaming Academy does not condone any of that stuff. And matter of fact, we love the open discussion of why these things happen. So this way, if it happens again, you kind of know, you have an idea what's going on out there, and we do our best here at the Academy to educate you on where to spend your money and how to spend your money, and stretch out that dollar as much as possible and make those educated purchases, right? So and as a kid, I was always a huge fan of reading legacy media when it came to magazines like GamePro, EGM, PSN magazine, right? Those are my go-tos because I only had enough allowance and birthday money for at least one or two games, right? And then my majority of my money went from renting video games, right? Where I would just try a game for 1 or 2 days, and then okay, this game sucks, or this game's great, I'll go return it, or I'll extend my rental. As simple as that. But now I feel like since rental is not even in the picture, I think this is where my fascination for demos come from, is because I used to rent video games, and I used to try them out before making a purchase. I remember renting out, or attempting to rent out, Sunset Riders at my local game store, $2 a day, right? Hoping they would have a copy in, and all you had to do was check and be like, hey, do you guys have a copy? Is this in? Like, nope, it's been rented out, and you just have to keep checking back, right? So we don't have that ability today. Matter of fact, you can play video games from your house. You don't have to leave the house. But this is why demos are important, because, if you're going to spend that much money when you don't have a lot of it, you want to try out a game before you put your hands on it and put your dollars on it.
Exactly. You want to make that informed purchase.
And we're all about informed purchases here. Matter of fact, the next segment, if this is your first time here, we'll cover the week of gaming history, where games came out throughout the days that we're covering. And maybe there's one game on this list that will just be like, wow, I remember that game. And so hopefully, so sit back and relax, pull up a chair as we go back in time, back to December 8th. And God knows how far we're going back. I think we're going far as back as 1988 here. You guys ready to rock?
Yo, fire up that DeLorean, man.
All right. With that said, Chapter intro. Love it. All right, so I got to put you on this side. I don't know why it's acting up like this. Well, I guess we're doing it that way then. All right, here we go. So the first game on this list today is Beyond Oasis, out on the Genesis in 1994, and this should say December 8th, not the 7th. I don't know why I did that. So, has anybody in chat played Beyond Oasis by any chance? Or Ace, are you familiar with it?
Heard the name, but haven't really had the chance to sit down with it. Again, me, although my household eventually got their hands on both consoles, I was definitely more of a Nintendo kid.
Yeah, I was definitely a one console house, as my mother stated that we're not going to get another console unless I give up my current one. I remember when I got my Super Nintendo, like I got it for my birthday / Christmas present, right? And my mom was like, well, we got to trade in your Nintendo so you can buy stuff for your Super Nintendo. I was like, well, can I have both? And she's like, no, you only keep one. And I was like, all right. Yeah, and as the kid, you're like, I want everything. I want all the things, man. Like, so I had to make the tough choice, and I still wish I had my collection to this day. So, but if you don't know what Beyond Oasis is, it is Sega's attempt on making like a Legend of Zelda, right? But with like a theme of like Safari, like an Oasis, like Sahara desert kind of theme, right? And it's funny because like the artwork here doesn't do the game any justice. I'll replace this with the Japanese box art, and it might like kind of remind you what the game actually supposed to look like and feel like. So let me see if I can find the cover for this. Aha! In Japan, and for the Mega Drive, this game was called The Story of Thor. So I'm not sure if you guys know or seen this box art or like this art before.
Okay. Yeah. Now, actually seeing that cover though, I do remember watching a playthrough of Beyond Oasis.
Yes, sir. And that is because hey Blue, how's it going? This game was one of the more rarer titles on the Genesis. It came out like relatively at the end of its lifespan, right? So it came out in 1994. So that's near 2000. Pretty, that's middle of the 90s, right? And that's like, when did PlayStation come out? 96 or something like that. Pretty close.
Late 94, early 95, actually.
Late. See, there you go. This came out the end of the lifespan of the 16-bit consoles. So, of course, a lot of people are like already checked out. They're like, oh, wow, polygon graphics. That's the best thing. And what they're missing out on are these great titles on the 16-bit console that are like, hey, we finally mastered the 16-bit console, right? Because it took us all these years, but now everyone's on to the next thing already. So this didn't get a lot of light on it. Speaking of getting more light onto some other games, I got some more pulled up over here. So feel free to holler if something kind of like tickles your fancy. DBZ, Dragon Ball Z, Legacy of Goku 1 and 2 and the GBA in 2005. I hear that's one of the best like Dragon Ball games like on a handheld, so that's a big one. Metal Gear Acid 2 on the PSP in 2005 in Japan. A personal favorite, Rogue Galaxy on the PS2 in 2005 in Japan. And for since Tragic and aka Nick's not here, but Andre is here, Yakuza came out on the PS2 in 2005 in Japan that day. That's where it all started. Ironically enough, Yakuza 5 and 6 came out the same day. 5 came out on the PS3 in 2015 in Japan. Yakuza 6 came out, The Song of Life, in 2016 in Japan. And also I wanted to give a shout out to Chained Echoes that came out on multiple consoles and PC in 2022. It's one of the more retro RPGs that really hone the nostalgic experience of the 16-bit era. So yeah. Anything in those, guys? Chat. What do you guys think? Yes, the most iconic Sega game, Yakuza, or Story of Thor. So, I mean, Yakuza is pretty iconic. In the modern times, a lot of people. I remember working at the store. They really were like trying to make it to like, oh, so is Yakuza just like GTA for Japan? Like they were kind of saying that, and I was like, no, not really, not really. Not really. Combat's way better. Also, it's not open world, it's open environment. I learned that day that those were two completely different things. Jago says Dark Deity and SRPG 2 has had a good demo. That's good. I know Dark Deity. I've looked that up on Steam. So it's like Fire Emblem, I think. So pretty neat. Oh man, I wanted this game so bad from Toys R Us. Jagos, are you referring to Beyond Oasis? Because last time we were on the show, I talked about how I sniped my PS2 from a guy in front of me in Toys R Us. So I don't know if you were there or not, but the legend has it that the guy in front of me couldn't afford to buy the last PS2 console in the store, and we were the next people in line, and he couldn't put it on hold. So sorry for that guy. Hope he's doing well in life. That's all I gotta say. So, all right, next one. On the December 9th, Ninja Gaiden came out on the Nintendo here in 1988.
Now that one is a straight up game changer.
Biggest arcade hit. That's where that's from, if y'all didn't know that.
Biggest arcade hit, and what's more, once it hit the NES, it was literally like Ninja Gaiden is the very first video game to actually include cutscenes and cinematics.
Yes, sir. Accurate. And I thought that was the coolest shit when I was a kid. You know, I think I was like in awe of like, no other game really did this. Like, this is cool. Like, the story's been like is being presented to me in like movie form, right? Mm-hmm. We still had to read it, but the music was on point, and graphically it was like superior to like what else was out there, right? So it was pretty good, because usually like cutscenes were limited to the intros and endings, right? Like for example, Contra, you get like a marquee in the beginning of like how it all starts. Then it does the demo, right? Like the automatic gameplay, and then you get like a little cutscene in the end. That's it. Like there's nothing in the middle. Ninja Gaiden had like cutscenes between levels. It was crazy, right? Fun fact: this is nothing like the arcade Ninja Gaiden. So if you play the arcade Ninja Gaiden, it is a brawler, which is weird. And he's like, he doesn't even really use a sword in that one. He just kind of has it as an accessory, which is funny. A few other games to come out for this day. I wanted to bring this up because I think this was the birth of the genre or this franchise. Road and Track, if you guys remember what that is, presents The Need for Speed back on the 3DO in 1994 in Japan.
Yep.
So y'all kids out there, if you don't know what Road and Track magazine is, and I don't know why I'm talking like that, Road and Track magazine is a car magazine. So, and I remember that very well back in the 90s at the local 7-Eleven. So
yeah, that's actually, I feel like, part of what, like, I guess you could say, you know, seeing like some of the more recent Need for Speed games, you know, or at the very least, like, you know, the start of like the ones on like the PS1 or PS2. Mm-hmm. You know, most people saw Need for Speed, and I'd say at least half the people that bought it immediately thought back to the Need for Speed on 3DO, and they're like, wait, isn't this that one game that car magazine?
There you go. I love that. And here, that's a really neat part of history, because like we don't refer to that as Road and Track Presents, right? We just call it The Need for Speed, NFS for short, right? So,
but again, this is also around the same time where companies weren't trying to advertise in games so much as they literally just tried to get their own stuff out there. Because I mean, you've got Road and Track Presents Need for Speed, and then take it back to the Sega Genesis, you got Cool Spot. Yep. Take it back to the NES, you have Yo Noid.
Yo Noid. How about you guys don't know what Yo Noid's from? I let the chat like kind of marinate that for a second. Without cheating, trying to figure out what franchise Yo Noid is from. Because, and Cool Spot, if you guys don't know what that is. So a few other noteworthy titles come out that day. I don't know if you heard, but there's a little game called Tekken that came out in the arcade in 1994. I don't know what that's about. So, and also, if you guys heard the intro from today, Warcraft 2 Tides of Darkness on PC came out in 1995, which is pretty great.
Jago's got them both.
Jago's got 100% on his quiz. My man. Hold on, 90% because he hasn't beaten Jack Yao yet. because yeah, Jack Yao is easy when you have the rolling flame in Ninja Gaiden 2. If you don't have that, that is a challenge. So awesome, Jago. It's good for you, man. Another noticeable title we referred to from the last episode, Quake 2 came out on PC in 1997. And my mistake from last time, Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories on the PlayStation came out in 1999 in Japan. That was the one that actually had the God cards. So yeah, I was kind of like talking about like, you know, last time where I was like, what the heck? No, this is the wrong game. This didn't have the God cards. It was the PlayStation one because I was showing off the GameCube one last time. Forbidden False Kingdom or False-Bound Kingdom, I think was the last one. So that was super interesting. Getting to hit him is so hard. You're right, man. You're bringing back my PTSD because from what I remember, think of like the Grim Reaper, right? He's like this with a giant cloak, and he's floating around the stage like this, like a big V. And if you touch him, you know, in Ninja Gaiden, you have a recoil, right? So if you have the sword, it's going to be really hard. But if you have the rolling flame, which shoots up diagonally, you can crush him if you have full meter. But it's super easy, especially when you have clones. That's a big one that I remember when I was a kid, just because I remember beating 2 before 1. Because to me, 1 was harder than 2. Just kind of like Mega Man for some reason. I think they learned from Mega Man. All right, on the 10th we go. So this one's pretty big. I don't know if anybody knows this little game either. You know, it's a little game called Doom that came out in 1993. I was about 12 years old, you know, and Doom just had come out.
Now here, I'm going to assign a homework assignment for the folks that have not already done so in the chat or are watching this live or after the fact. Please, please, please do yourselves a favor. Check out the Angry Video Game Nerds video.
That's a good one. Also, you were I don't know if you want to share it on chat or not, but weren't you showing some kind of like it was like a project where this guy was doing like melee combat in Doom?
Yeah, no, I'll have to try and find the link to the to the account that on Twitter that I found. But yeah, there's this guy that is pretty much modding Doom into a God Hand style.
God Hand style.
Third person beat 'em up, and it's glorious.
Guys, think about that for a second. Doom with God Hand mechanics. That sounds insane. Only an insane person will have to tackle this on. Luckily, we have a lot of crazy people on the internet, so is this Halo? Question mark. Is that the meme with the butterfly? Is this Halo?
Right? Is this Halo?
Yeah. You know, before I move on to the rest of this list here for this day, like I'd like to kind of, you know, shout out to Doom for like kind of starting the revolution of first person shooters. You know, Wolfenstein, I know technically came out before this, right? But like, I think Doom is what put it on the marketing map, right? And the fact that like you're a space marine shooting demons, and of course this is the 90s, and they thought Magic the Gathering was satanic. Can you imagine like what people saw when they saw this poster?
Right.
Like
Doom, much like Mortal Kombat, pushed the envelope.
Oh, yeah, yes, it did. So I do remember, and it was very popular because I do remember around 7th grade, I wrote a short story, not a short story fiction on Doom episode 2 as a kid. And it was just me like describing how I played that like shareware area, right? But like in like narrative form, right? But I was talking about it as the Space Marine. Now,
that's cool.
As a 12-year-old kid, seems kind of crazy, right? But like the fact that Doom was the name of my paper, and then it was so popular, my teacher was like, "Really? Like this is the short story you want to write about?" You know? I go, and you know, and it was just really funny from what I remember. Like she was not having it, right? But a lot of my assignments back in the day in the middle school, they were all video game related. I think one of my like show and tell or how to's like assignments, like I was doing a show or how to on how to get better in Killer Instinct. Right? The best part about doing those kind of papers or presentations, guys, is since not everyone in your classroom or your teacher plays video games, they technically can't say you're wrong. So that's all I got to tell you about that. So anyway, moving on. Another arcade title to come out that day was Fatal Fury 2 in the arcade in 1992 in Japan. So Ace, I gotta know before moving on to the next title here.
Go ahead.
What was the big leap from Fatal Fury 2 to 1, since I consider you to be my FF pro?
Well, the big leap from Fatal Fury to Fatal Fury 2 could pretty much be equated to the leap from Street Fighter to Street Fighter 2. There was a massive expansion of the roster, whereas in the first game, you could only play as Terry, Andy, or Joe, and you would face off against the other two, plus the other boss characters like Raiden, Billy Kane, Axel Hawk, Geese, of course, and Hua Jai, among others. But in Fatal Fury 2, that was the introduction of some of our favorite Fatal Fury characters and KOF mainstays like Kim Cap-1, Mai Shiranui, let's see, Cheng Shenzan, Tun Fu. And again, aside from that, though, just with that selectable roster expansion, there was also a definitely notable upgrade in the sprite work as well.
Yeah, that's definitely a big jump in the fidelity and like the quality of the graphics from 1 and 2, right? I can't remember, but is this when they stopped doing the foreground background, or
no,
they still had it?
They still did the multi-lane fighting. In fact, they pretty much did multi-lane fighting in Fatal Fury all the way up to Real Bout 2.
Okay.
And after that, it was Mark of the Wolves where it just stuck to just the one plane.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, and that, I'm sure that won't come up later, but I do have a question about Real Bout 2 once we get there. Would you say Fatal Fury 2's roster is like the kind of like the solidified roster for like what is represented from SNK and the King of Fighters? Majority of them?
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of those characters in KOF are coming from Fatal Fury, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean,
right.
Probably one of the most popular fighting game characters outside of Terry Bogard. Also making her appearance in Street Fighter 6 coming up, originated in Fatal Fury 2.
And that's I think I'm gonna make it a check this out about that, because I see a lot of Discord about the design of Mai in SF6 versus City of the Wolves. So that should be a fun conversation to have. So I wanted to bring this one up. Super very obscure RPG, but Romancing Saga 2 on the Super Nintendo came out in 1993, only in Japan. And the reason why I bring that up is because they actually just remade that. It's called like the Seven Heroes or something like that.
Revenge of the Seven.
Yeah, Revenge of the Seven on the PlayStation and the modern day console. That's why I wanted to bring that up. So don't, to know where you're going, you got to know where you came from. That's kind of how it is. And this for the chat in our community: Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate on the 3DS in 2011 in Japan. This was technically my first serious attempt at Monster Hunter on the Wii U, right? And I had a good time with this. My roommate at the time was pretty much my guide. You remember Ian? Yeah, he was the one that showed me around, and I think, was this the one that was had swimming in it? The first one to have swimming or something along those lines. And then I remember it was very unpopular because it was really hard to fight a monster in the water.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Let's see here. Cyberpunk 2077 came out in multiple consoles in 2020. Ironically, but technically, when did it really come out? It was more just a release day that day. So people are still patching that game this day. That's 4 years ago. So a few shout outs to games coming out today. First one is Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver 1 and 2 Remastered, coming out on multiple consoles. Coming out today. I remember when I said there was plans to release this, and then Blue Riot Bot was like, "Nah, I think it's only on that one thing." They thought I was crazy. So if you're Blue, if you're in chat, let's just say I was right. Yeah, and I'm not crazy, or at least about this. And the other one is the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Rita's Rewind, which seems to be a really big hit in the brawling and community. So I was like, Dude, I'm in. Like, you
Let's
give me pixel graphics, local co-op like that, like Dragon, like TMNT and Double Dragon. I'm in, dude. I will buy it.
let's just say hearing some of the music from that earlier.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm probably gonna wind up buying it after I'm done with this session of Z3.
yeah, for sure. And do you know? Is there? I'm pretty sure there is, but is there a physical release for this game yet announced?
That's a good question.
Yeah, let's look that up, chat. You guys are good for that, and we all know we love the physical copies here. We talk about it a lot on the channel. So while we're doing that, let's move on to the next day, which is December 11th. A little fighting game called Eternal Champions came out today and back in 1993. Pretty much the same day that Beyond Oasis came out. This too was also one of the later end fighting games or games released on the Genesis. One to feature an interesting little ESRB rating down here in the bottom right corner here. So, and I think this wasn't even ESRB yet. It says here VRC.
Right. Right. The ESRB hadn't quite fully been established yet, but there were still, there was still, agencies trying to establish and enforce ratings on games after, the big blow up with Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, and here's the thing, like, they could have made Eternal Champions PG-13, but they didn't. They made it MA-13, which is insane to think about, guys. MA-13 versus what is that? MA-18 or
Right.
MA-17, the rating that we have now, right? It's crazy how back then, the day 13 was the adult age, and we pushed it back for video games. Kind of wild, right? Right now, this would be like teen, right? So, but it's got blood and violence in it, so it is a mature rated game currently. So, very interesting. And yeah, Eternal Champions was Sega's attempt at Mortal Kombat, since as Old Man Simpson said, that was the trend at the time. So that's pretty much why they did it this way. Let's see what else came out that day. Mega Man 3 on the Game Boy came out in 1992 in Japan. Shinobi 2, The Silent Fury, came out for the Game Gear in 1992 in Japan. A couple of handheld titles there. Here it is. Real Bout Fatal Fury Arcade in 1995. So this was when they were really getting into that high pixelated, high count, right? It's frame count.
Yep.
What you think they were trying to emulate Street Fighter Alpha at the time for this, or what were they trying to compete with in 1995?
In 95, actually, yeah. That is exactly what they were competing with in 95. They were competing with Street Fighter Alpha and all of the other, big Capcom titles that were coming out on the CPS2. So stuff like Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, you had X-Men Children of the Atom, Darkstalkers.
Yeah, and this and keep in mind, chat, SNK and Capcom had bad blood back in the day. Like, you do something, we're gonna do something better. And that's and this is why I believe we had so many fighting games released at that time, because competition breeds innovation, right? And guess who won? Capcom, right? But I am so happy. Don't get me wrong. I am so happy they finally managed to shake hands and make a game together, and now they're working together for the sake of the fans, right? Because before, I don't know if you know this, chat. Back then, they would hide the names of the developers in their credit screens, so they don't get poached. That's how much bad blood they had, right? And now we don't even do that anymore, and we're seeing crossovers and guest characters, right? So that's why And I was always wondering that as a kid, why is the executive producer of this game champion 500? It was so weird to me as a kid, and I didn't really know that as I got older, right? So super cool, super interesting. I wanted to add this to the list because this is one of the more rarer games on the PlayStation. Elemental Gearbolt, if you haven't don't know what that is, it came out on the PlayStation in 1997 in Japan. Yeah, you had something to say, Ace?
Oh no, just I actually remember, I remember one of my friends actually snagged a copy of Elemental Gearbolt.
Yeah, it's a rail shooter, right? And that's the thing. It's back then, I think those obscure games that we don't really put a lot of thought into, though these tend to be the more rare and expensive games to be purchased on the retro scene, right?
Yep.
So, chat, if you want to look up pricecharting.com for Elemental Gearbolt, feel free to educate us, but I'm not excited to see what this complete cost is for that. So,
and going back to talking about SNK and Capcom really quickly. Yeah, part of their bad blood was, SNK poached people from Capcom.
That's true. And actually, wasn't the Fatal Fury dev team Capcom employees, right?
Yep.
So,
and in fact, the main reason why we have Dan in Street Fighter Alpha is Capcom taking pot shots at SNK.
Yep. And Rio in Art of Fighting was just like, we're gonna copy Street Fighter. That's literally what Art of Fighting was. Like, if you look at the character designs, it's 100% that. So, and that was, like I said, and think about it. If it wasn't for their bad blood, we wouldn't have such an interesting SNK roster, right? In King of Fighters.
That's
right?
true.
So that's take something negative and turn it into a positive, right? So I think that's a very important lesson for
and then on top of that, the producer of not the producer, but one of the producers on Street Fighter 6, Nakayama, was a big SNK fan.
Mm-hmm. And it's good to have fans working on your games, and this is why I think the later end of SF5 was awesome because of Nakayama, right? And now why we have relationships with SNK, and we're just eating it up, man. We're like loving every minute of it. To see Terry in a Street Fighter, that's like historically iconic. Like, you have to think about that. To see Ken in an SNK game that's not SVC Chaos, like in a more modern day game, that's crazy. Right. And Jagus also said that Ono helped burn that bridge. Like, that was a really weird era for Capcom. I think, like most companies, they get too cocky because they're the industry leader, right? Sony does this all the time, where they'll lead in the industry and they'll make something stupid, right? Like a cell processor for your PlayStation 3 and Blu-ray, and so make it really hard for developers to make games for you. So because they want to be an industry leader, because they're ahead of the game per se, right? So, and here's the thing, that's, I think, like a risk that turned out to be better for us, because Blu-ray is a really good medium. We're not having to play on like 4 DVDs, right? So, but at the same time, if it wasn't for their mistake, we wouldn't be benefiting from that now, right? So, okay, all right. So some other games come out that day: Klonoa Door to Phantomile, PlayStation, on 1997 in Japan. Another rare title, and if you were looking to collect,
another rare title, and another, I guess you could say, like, Klonoa is one of the less often talked about Namco mascots.
Yeah. And I think, like, to be fair, I feel like Klonoa and Brave Fencer Musashi are like, I feel like they're hanging out together. They came out in the same era, and then they've been kind of forgotten.
Right.
But their games felt the same, right? Like it had that really interesting, like rotoscoping stage in, like, in your PlayStation, like for your PlayStation 1. Like it made the stage feel bigger because of how it was presented to you, right? So Klonoa is pretty awesome. Shining Force 3 on the Saturn in 1997 in Japan. Another rare title, because the Shining Force series was a hard title to get a hold of back in the day there. Since we featured Need for Speed, I figured we should also feature Gran Turismo 2 on the PlayStation in 1999 in Japan. Arguably one of the most popular racing sims out there, because that like really led the way for others like Forza and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
So an innovative, a pioneer in its genre. Also, that come out that day in 1999 in Japan. You'll never guess, but the Nintendo 64 digital drive came out that day, which we had no use for here, unfortunately. I don't really know too much about it. Unfortunately, this is Nick's field of expertise. He'll probably come back. He'll probably show up on chat and be like, "Hey, this is what it was for," So, but I know it was intended to kind of like store extra like memory for your Nintendo 64 to help games run faster in conjunction with like the memory cart, right? So, But yeah, I don't want to know. I don't want to say too much because I don't know too much about it. But the next one I think Ace knows a lot about is Shadow Hearts in the PS2 in 2001. That was a big one, and I gotta be honest with you, 2000 to 2005 video game releases were pretty fire. There was so much because of the PS2, but there was a lot of like leaps of like like I said, competition breeds innovation. Like we weren't like Square wasn't gonna be the king of RPGs. Like people were gunning for that spot, right? And Shadow Hearts was like one of those like how can we be different than Final Fantasy and still be good, right?
And boy, howdy, did they pull it off.
Here's my question: who the hell owns Shadow Hearts now, and where can we get in a remaster or a sequel for this thing?
That's a solid question. As far as who owns the rights to Shadow Hearts now, I'm not entirely sure. We can definitely look that up. But as far as getting a remaster, we are close to that with what you call it? With I believe it's a team of the former developers from Shadow Hearts working on Penny Blood.
Penny Blood. Interesting.
Yeah. Which is, the spiritual successor to Shadow Hearts. Definitely something to check out.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's good. Here's the thing. I feel like there's so many IPs on the PS2 era that were just like shelved from all these companies, right? Not just one company. All of them are guilty. Right? So Judge Dredd just showed up.
We mentioned one earlier, Rogue Galaxy.
Bro, tell you, who was that? Level 3? Right?
That was level 5.
Level 5. They were really good at what they did, right, and how they did it, and they need to like come back into the picture. I know they did Ni no Kuni also, right? Is that right? Yeah. And that game was like presentably awesome looking. Like it was like you're playing a Ghibli movie. So they need to give him more projects, honestly.
Yeah. Well, good to see you in the chat, Mo. Glad to have you with us, man.
Momo,
that's right. The Penny Blood developers are suing Dangan Entertainment. I know that's a news story that's come up a couple of times that I wanted to talk about, but it's like I should have saved it. We can definitely look that up, and we can definitely talk about it.
Oh yeah. We'll pop it on the docket here. Not a problem. We always got time to talk about those things. All right, Resident Evil Outbreak on the PS2 also came out in 2003 in Japan. Oh. Arguably, it's what multiplayer Resident Evil should be. Personally, right? Because I know they did Reverse, right? And they did that weird like Dead by Daylight style Resident Evil game that's free. But Resident Evil Outbreak is the way to do Resident Evil for multiplayer. So hopefully the next one, they are an offshoot of Resident Evil, they do something like that. And keep in mind, guys, this was on the PS2. You had to have a hard drive and also a network adapter to play this, right?
Yep.
And we didn't have headsets at the time. So how the hell are you going to communicate with people?
Oh, but wait, here's a little something for you. Apparently, there is a way to like add like literally gigs of storage to your PS2 using that network adapter and hard drive. Oh, like I've seen some videos around of folks who've like hooked it up with like I want to say like 1 terabyte SSDs.
I can see that because the hard drive was a container for an actual hard drive. Because I opened those up and reset all the time, right? And I would just be like, you can put like a gigabyte hard drive in here and just slam it in and put it in your PlayStation. But aside from Final Fantasy, how else are we going to use this unless you hack like the OS and stuff, right? So I'm totally cool with that. If you figure out how to put like all the retro games in your PS2 and how it played, man, that'd be so sick. Like I would love that, right? Imagine PS1 titles in that thing. Imagine PSP titles in that thing, right? So stuff like that, super cool. So don't get me wrong, guys. I love buying official, authentic stuff, but if you can manage to like ROM stuff, like I'm all about that too. Like the video game preservation is what I'm all about, right?
Exactly.
So I'm all about that. I push for that, and people being creative with that stuff. I think that's you're so creative, you're so smart, and you're doing like the community a favor, to be honest with you. So, last game,
especially if you're really quickly, especially if you're managing to actually lay hands on these games before the sites hosting them get taken down and listed.
Yeah, you don't want the plumber showing up at your house, that's for sure. Plumber and his dinosaur friend.
Mhm.
Well, this must have been the day for Neo Geo, but Samurai Shodown 5 also came out in a Neo Geo in 2003. Awesome.
Yep.
A little, I want to throw this in there, a little thing called PS Home on the PS3 back in 2008, if anybody remembers that guy. I had lots of fun just dinking around that thing. This was like the beginning of social hubs at the time, right? It's so funny because Tekken's multiplayer lobbies is pretty much the modern day of PS Home. But like,
Especially Tekken 8.
yeah, that's exactly what I mean. It's like focused on fighting games, but like that style of like arena and like locations. Honestly, they need to bring it back. I feel like a lot of people would hang out in those hubs. SF6 people hang out in a hub like that, right? So that's super interesting. Want to throw this in there because it was a phenomenon at the time. Angry Birds came out in 2009 for the iOS, right? So that's a big I think leap in the gaming community, of course. And I want to throw this in there because it's part of our community as well. Grand Blue Fantasy versus Rising also came out last year on the PlayStation 4 and 5. So pretty neat about that. All right, December 12. Let's jump on to this guy. Oh yeah, this is for December 12 here. December 12 was the release of the mighty PSP at the time. So pretty cool. Came out in Japan. And if you guys have stories about your PSP, let me know. I'll share my story after I go through this list here. So, all right, December 12, Donkey Kong Jr. Math, not Donkey Kong Jr., Donkey Kong Jr. Math. So Nintendo attempted to teach kids math while playing video games. Good for them. This was their jam. Came out on the NES back in 1983. Guys, I was 2 years old when that thing came out. So, and some of y'all weren't even existing yet. So,
but I mean, Nintendo did a lot of stuff like that. I mean, there was Donkey Kong Jr. Math, and probably the big one for me is Mario is Missing on the Super NES.
Yeah, they did that. Mario's Missing. I think there was a lot of like educational-ish games on a Nintendo, published by Nintendo, right? They were really looking to kind of make this like a children's experience, like for the family, and they still are, to be honest with you. And keep in mind, guys, the industry considers video games as a category of toys. Keep that in mind. When they're like rating and like trying to think about how to categorize video games, they still see video games as toys, right? So that's how it's categorized in like the financial district. They consider it as toys. I repeat that. They consider it as toys. So Clock Tower 3 came out on the PS2 back in 2002 in Japan also in that day. The PSP released, and here are some games that came out with the release of the PSP. All right, first one on this list: Armored Core Formula Front Extreme Battle. Can't be any shorter than that. That's another one was Darkstalkers Chronicle, the Chaos Tower. That was their handheld version of Darkstalkers. Hot Shots Golf Open T. The one that I bought for my PSP was Lumines on the PSP, and also Ridge Racer came out on launch on the PSP. So there was a lot of variety that came out. You got a fighting game, you got a puzzle game, a sports game, and an action game. Dude, they had it. The PSP had it. So before I get to the stories, a couple more things that came out that needs to be noted. This one's a personal for my list. Gauntlet 7 Sorrows came out on the PS2 and Xbox in 2005. I don't know if anybody here's played that, but that was a good one. And I don't know if you guys know, but PUBG also came out that day back on the Xbox One back in 2017, which arguably you can say that it started the Battle Royale revolution that we have now.
It did.
That was the first game, right? So fun fact. Anyway, share your PSP stories. There's already a few of them on the chat. Like Ridge Racer. That was a big one. Make sure to take a stretch break. Yeah, all the time, baby. So my PSP story was interesting. I worked part-time in Chicago for a GameStop, and I also worked, my other part-time job was Men's Warehouse, right? And I worked both jobs. Now, one day, my Men's Warehouse job said, hey, we're going to give you a promotion out of nowhere. They were just like, we like you. We're going to give you a promotion. I said, sick. Does it pay me this? And like, it was like the offset of like, if I quit GameStop, will I still make the same amount? It was more than that, and it had commission. So I was like, perfect, right? I'll do that. And so I went I went in there to quit, right? I went into the store to quit at GameStop, and my AM at the time, super cool guy, and I don't remember him very clearly, but I do remember him. Like, if you guys are fighting game people and you guys know your community in fighting games, if y'all know a little charismatic man named IFC Yipes, right? This man was like IFC Yipes. He brought in the hype. He like just knew how to talk. He was so nice. He was like full of energy, right? Positive energy. And I respected this guy. He was the AM. I was like a lowly game advisor at the time, right? And he was like, yo, check this out, man. This is the new PSP. And I was like, oh, handheld? That's trash, bro. Like, you know, at the time, because like handhelds didn't really hold up as like the consoles did at the time, right? Like you're like Sega to the Game Gear, your Nintendo to the Game Boy, right? Super Nintendo to the GBA. It's like there was always a downgrade to that. Now, he handed me the PSP, and I think I was playing like Chase Force or something like that, where you like jump from car to car. We talked about this last time. It's a PSP game where you jump from car to car and you were like trying to arrest somebody, right? It's a chase. And I played that game and I was like, yo, this runs at 60 frames per second. It's so crisp, it's so clean, and it's handheld. I can play this on the train, because I used to commute on the train to go to work, and it took me like 40 minutes to get to work. So I was like, I might as well game on the train, right?
There you go.
You could also listen to music. You could also add photos. It had no camera, but you can watch photos in it, right? And it had everything. Videos, you got it. This was like at the time like cooler than an iPod, right? So I was like, well, how much is this, dog? And he was like, oh, it's only, what was it? It's like only like $200, something like that. I was like, oh my God, this is not that expensive. And it looks and feels better than a PS2.
Hey, cooler than the iPod? The PSP was my iPod for a long time.
That's what I'm saying. Same here, man. I uploaded music to this bad boy and I listened to that, right?
When I first met you, I had the PSP 1000. And it was after I think it was after one of our tournaments at Tilt where I ran into Jake.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, I got this modded PSP that, I don't have. I know, I remember you mentioning your PSP was on the way out. $80. I'll slide this over. And I'm like,
yo, it's
less.
Like I said, this was like a weird like transition period in technology where we didn't have smartphones yet, right? So this was like the hotness. Like I'm telling you guys, like if you guys don't remember this era or you're too young, like this was the business back in the day, because like we didn't have smartphones yet, and like to have something like this on the go was super powerful. Now you can play
like smartphones like that yet, and again, like you mentioned with the iPod, the iPod was also like stuff like the iPod and the Zune were also still pretty expensive. Kind of like how DVD players and Blu-ray players were expensive at the time that the respective Sony consoles came out.
Well, I remember like the Zune was like $300 for like just music. And I was like, I can play games, listen to music, watch videos on this thing. The only thing you had to pay for was the size of the memory stick, which was a proprietary product from Sony.
Right.
This is what we talked about. Sony always makes these hardware decisions where it's only from them. You can get this thing from them officially, and it makes it difficult for the consumer to buy this outside of them. Right. And that's just what they do. So but yeah, that was my story on the PSP. Like I snagged the one up. I didn't even know it was out, and I worked at a GameStop. That's how little I worked at a GameStop, right? I picked it up. I splurged that day. I think I busted my whole check that whole day. I bought like 3 games, I bought memory stick, about that. But it had a lot of value, right? And I was a super fan of the PSP. And the PSP only got better. The only time it got worse was when from 1000 to 3000, they changed the mechanism in the back. Like it used to have like a spring, and it was like super cool, and it was heavier, right? And then the newer one was more plasticky. So that was like the only downside to that. And also the first gen where you were able to do like, you can put ROMs in it, right? Because they just knew how to do that. But I think they figured that out regardless. But I do know for a while people were asking for like 1000 models only, right? Not 3000 models.
Yep.
So super cool. Oh yeah, that's the 12th, man. PSP, like, man, that's a game changer for me. Historically, this is a pretty big chapter in my life. This took care of me for a while. This was also the time where I had quit. Like I think '05 and '06 was when I really took a break from video games. And the only thing I had was my PSP for music, like I said, and just, watch videos and stuff. So it was like it took care of me for what I did. So super cool. Looks like it took care of Ace too.
Yes, yes, it
All
did.
right. I don't know if you guys have heard of this little game, but Tecmo Bowl came out on December 13 back in the Nintendo in 1991. Arguably the most busted football game out there because there's only one player that matters.
Oh, Jackson.
Yep. You know why? Because Bo knows. He knows everything. He knows how to cheat in Tecmo Bowl too, apparently. So the man is so good. He's the superior character in a video game. And here's the thing. This doesn't say Bo Jackson Super Bowl. It's just Tecmo Bowl, dog. So that means they were super fans and they knew what was up of Bo Jackson, right? That was intentional. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, Clock Tower 1 also came out this day on the PlayStation back in 1996. So that's a little interesting there. A little fun game called Strider 2 came out in the arcade in 1999 in Japan, which I didn't know had an arcade release, but I do have the PlayStation 2 version or PlayStation 1 version of this.
And the intro stage to Strider 2.
Oh, super
and
good.
The music,
super hype.
Whew.
No complaints. Also, tail end of the PlayStation 1. I feel like this is like December is like where all tail end games came out so far. Super good. Funny story. Not really funny, but it is funny. I bought this game and I played it on my PlayStation and it did not work. And no, it wasn't because I had like the busted CD lens because all my other games work. It did not work and I was trying to figure out why it didn't work. Right? I forgot I had owned a modded PlayStation 1 from Japan so I can play imported games. Oops. And Strider 2 actually has a built-in authenticity check when it boots up. So this was DRM before DRM was a thing. So it's kind of crazy. Which is odd because now every PlayStation plays every game from every region. But this was the first experience I had where region games was a limitation for my console. Was the thing. Yeah, region lock. My first experience of region locking when I purchased a US game for my modded PlayStation that played US games, except this one.
Except.
So yeah, for a while I thought the game was broken. I thought like the game itself wasn't working. Like it had a defective disc. Right. Mm-hmm. And then I put it in my buddy's like, hey man, can you just load this up on yours if it works? And it works just fine. And I was like, oh, it's mine then. It has to be because it's modded 100%. So, and yes, chat, I spent an extra $100 importing my PS1 from Japan to have it modded for Japanese and English because there were so many cool Dragon Ball Z games only in Japan that I had to get. So, hey, you got to make tough choices. And that was the tough choice. Couple other things that came out that day. Fatal Frame on the PS2 in 2001 in Japan came out. A little tiny game called Legend of Zelda Wind Waker came out in the GameCube in 2002. Arguably the best Zelda game with the best graphics. Gran Turismo 5 on the PS3 in 2007. Gran Turismo will be coming out in December. That's just how it is. Mm-hmm. And Ace will appreciate this. God Eater 3 came out on the PS4 in 2018 in Japan. The only God Eater I haven't played yet. So I beat 2, I beat Burst, and I have yet to play this. I played the demo though, and I liked it. So, and from what I remember, they changed the movement in this game, right? Like it feels more like they have more mobility.
No, they do. They definitely have more mobility. I mean, okay. Look, I was almost tempted to say, you know what? I'll fire up the game and stream it tonight, but no, I need to be getting to bed for work tomorrow.
That's all right, man. You play some other time, and I'll join you because I have yet to play that game. So I do want to try it out as well. And
they amped up the mobility, and of course the two new weapon types that were added.
Yeah. No, I remember playing the demo, and I was like, I can't play this until I beat 2. Because I know during that time they had released 2 with 1. right? And I was like, since I haven't played 1, I gotta go play 1 first. Then I played 2, and then when 3 came out, I was like, I'm so burnt out on God Eater, I gotta go play something else. But I think Tekken 6 also came out that time, or 5, and so I was playing that as well. So I just transitioned to that. The last game that come out that day for us is Judgment on the PS4 back in 2018 in Japan. Is that right? Judgment in 2018, is that accurate? I feel like it came out in the 2020s. So.
Yeah,
Awesome.
in Japan.
That's right. That's right.
But,
I forgot to get it first because they're cooler than us. So, all right, the last day for this week in gaming history, a little special one here, and unfortunately, Nick's not here to experience this. Was Commander Keen: Invasion of the Vorticons was released back in 1990 on the PC and chat.
Type install and press enter.
Chat, I am not kidding when we say there was no box art for this, because what did Nick say last time? You had to mail a postcard in to get this game mailed to you. Right?
Shareware.
Yeah, the Oppo G, right? So yeah, this is a real photo of the discs that we had back in the day, and I do remember having Doom on 3 to 4 discs like this. So that's kind of wild to see this. I was like, when I saw this photo, I was like, oh, that's so cute. Like that's amazing. I love that. It just gave me like a warm feeling inside, So
the picture of that floppy disk would not fit on that floppy disk.
No, not even close. Not even close. I think our camera size is like still a bit bigger than the floppy disk, right? Itself.
But then consider this though. Consider what they were able to do as far as just game development with such a small amount of data back then.
He's speaking facts, because think about it this way. Back in the day, games were like heavy pixels, right? For graphics, right? And right now there are some games on Steam that are like indie titles that use pixel graphics, right? And they're almost a gig. And one of these bad boys, I think, is 1.4 megabytes. That's nothing. So that they did wizardry back in the day. I don't know how many cats they sacrificed to make games like this, but like they did it. They figured it out. So we'll get into that, how like the industry has changed a little bit, what they're focusing on, and there was a really interesting video that I saw how like the industry's budgets are bloated, and they don't have to be, because like we don't see it in the game, right? So I'd love to kind of talk about that later. So you bring up a good point. But aside from this interesting box art here, Final Fantasy Legend 2 came out on the Game Boy back in 1990 in Japan. And I think Final Fantasy Legend was actually the Secret of Mana series back in the day. So if y'all don't know that, now you do. A little hateful game called Mario Kart 64 that will ruin your friendships. And back in 1996 came out in Japan. Dark Cloud 2 on the PS2 in 2000 in Japan. Arguably before Stardew Valley, there was Dark Clouds. And then Pokemon Stadium 2 came out on N64 in the 2000 in Japan. This was the month of Nintendo. Animal Crossing for the GameCube came out in 2001 in Japan. And one of the cooler RPGs I think to have on this list is Wild Arms 5 on the PS2. Came out in Japan in 2006. And I added this here because I didn't really know too much about it, but I looked it up, and it's like they call it a search action game, like Castlevania, right? Symphony of the Night. Eterna Noctis came out on a PS5 in 2021, and it looks like it plays just like Castlevania, but with like a cyber samurai like aesthetic behind it, which is pretty neat. And River City Girls 2 came out on the PC in 2022. That's super fun. So a lot of these games, these games are the stuff that we remember, and the stuff that like I'm looking like into playing. So I wanted to add those on there. Any stories aside from Commander Keen on those games, Chad or Ace?
Let me go back to that list again, because man, well, firstly, I like from what you just mentioned about Eterna Noctis, I definitely want to take a look into that and check that out. Wild Arms 5 is the only one of Wild Arms 5 is actually the only game in the series that I have not played yet. But through the magic of game preservation, I do have that waiting on my hard drive, so I will eventually pop into that and probably stream it after I'm finished trying to replay through 4.
I'm trying to see if I have Wild Arms 5 into Hand's Reach, but this is Gauntlet 7 Sorrows, if you guys haven't seen it before. Super cool. So this is when they try to make Gauntlet edgy, because before this they had the arcade one, right? But this one they were trying to make like a really cool story, and the 7 Sorrows were like the things you had to defeat, right?
Yeah,
super cool.
Yeah, then they were trying to make Gauntlet edgy, just like they were trying to make Golden Axe edgy.
Mm-hmm. And since we were on the topic, I just had it right here next to me.
Here we go.
Y'all don't know what that is. That's a little thing called Shadow Hearts.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anybody remembers the sequel that came out. There's also that for you. So
I've played a little bit of 3, a little bit of From the New World, but I definitely want to go. Like I'm going back, and I've actually taken some time to go back and start playing through 1 again, but I definitely want to just play through the whole series from the beginning again.
I know I have Wild Arms here somewhere, so give me a minute.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, just seeing that picture of the freaking floppy disk up there, man, it really gets me thinking about all the PC games, all the DOS games from back in the mid 90s. And again, just how with so little these developers did so freaking much. I mean, this actually reminded me that, I eventually want to pick up the Rise of the Triad Ludicrous Edition. Because that one comes with both the 2013 or 2014 remake and the Apogee original.
I don't see it. It's probably one of those bigger PS2 boxes. And I put it somewhere else. But just for fun.
It's in one of the other boxes.
Just for fun, chat. Here's a 5 that you guys probably have never heard of. It's Suikoden 5. So this game's like $300. This is like unnecessarily expensive. That's all I gotta say. And I'm glad I picked one up when it was not $300. So
seriously.
But yeah, that's all right. That's fun. There you go. Awesome, guys. Good job. So there weren't they called something like the Contra Force, like Bill and Lance? They were called something. I forgot what they were called.
I forget what they were.
Yeah, they had like a canonical unit named unit for themselves, right?
Uh-huh.
I know his name was Mad Dog. It was Bill Reiser, and Lance Bean was like something I can't remember. It was his code name Scorpion. That's right. His code name was Scorpion. Okay, all right. So we got a few articles here today. We're not going to go too hard on it, but a little game called Marvel Rivals came out over the weekend, and it is a free-to-play Overwatch hero shooter. And the big topic that keeps coming up on conversation is that, how come this game has what did I check? Last time I checked, it had an opening night had 12 million people playing it. That is wild. 12 million people playing this game, right? Uh-huh. So I'm gonna pull up this article here. So the big question is, why did Marvel Rivals have 12 million people to come play? It has an average concurrent player base of 480,000. So let's just say 500K, right? Came out, and Concord had nothing. They had I looked this up. They had like a concurrent player count of 6,000 at most, like all time. I did all time, right, just to be fair. And they had very little, right? So I want to kind of do a deep dive on why Marvel Rivals succeeded and Concord failed. And I'm sure there's some obvious ones, like there's established like IPs, brand, right? And also $0 investment versus what, $40 investment, mm-hmm. right? So that was the first thing I thought of. Honestly, people play because it was free, right? That's exactly, they want to try it out, right? And people know what Marvel is. All-time Concord on PC was $697. I was probably thinking of all PSN or PlayStation and Steam then. Diablo and Blizzard are sweating. Yeah, of course they are. They need to be, because they've gotten lazy.
I mean, hell, the one of the former heads at Blizzard, freaking Mike Ibarra, came out and made a, pardon my French, came out and made a fucking fool of himself. Trying to talk about how Marvel Rivals was ripping off Overwatch.
No, that's a bunch of horse shit, dude.
Because
here's the thing, because
Black Widow.
Oh
Black
my God,
Widow was an obvious ripoff of Widowmaker. It's even in her name. Like,
it's full circle though, because you guys copied Scarlett Johansson to make Widowmaker. That's 100%. It's full circle. They're reaching at this point because 2 games came out that are attacking 2 games that they have, which is, I don't think was intentional. But when you're going for the king, you make sure you take him down, right? Yep. That's all I'm saying. And these guys were like, we're gonna hit him in both places. So, and honestly, I think it's a good thing. We were talking about competition breeds innovation. Here it is. It's in your face, Blizzard. What's your next move? Is what I'm saying. And I'm saying this as a Diablo 4 player, right? What's your next move? Like after Path of Exile, which we'll get to that here in a second, comes out, what's your next move? Because people are now going to migrate over to Path of Exile if people are talking about it, and it's the hot fire right now. And also half the price of Diablo 4.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's speed. It's Dennis Hopper, Pop quiz hot shot.
Absolutely.
Like 2 different companies come out with games that do what you do better. What do you
Absolutely. Do? So the interesting point about this article, and this article comes from the Video Gamer here, was that this, who was the author here? I can't remember. Well, I like to give him credit before I start going, by Tajal Musa. They were talking about what would cause somebody to jump ship from the game that they're playing now and reinvest themselves to play another game that's similar to that. Right. So, for example, like a lot of my friends, they play Street Fighter 6. Like you guys play Street Fighter 6. Mm-hmm. I haven't touched Street Fighter 6. I've been grinding out in Tekken. Right. And it's kind of opposite. You haven't been playing Tekken because you want to wait for the full thing. Right. And so I'm kind of like the same. Like I own Street Fighter 6, but it's more for me the investment of time put into it. Because grinding on Tekken 8 is also putting a lot of time into it. Right. It's been already a year and it went by super quick. Right. Praise be, I'm only 3 ranks away from Tekken King. That's my goal. That was my goal the whole time. Because there's no way in hell I'm gonna have enough patience and time to go to Tekken Emperor, Tekken God, right? I'm not that sweaty. So, and the point was that what do I have to give up, and what do I have to put in to this next game that I'll be playing? Right. So, for example, what they were saying is that why would Overwatch 2 players jump to Marvel Rivals? Well, the first thing that they were talking about is, well, about this. And in comparing it to Concord is that the initial investment, right? All right. You want me to jump to Concord? Yeah, I got to give you $40 first. Right. But here's the thing. If I've been playing Overwatch for this long, right, and I'm pretty sure I've probably spent $40 somewhere for them, right? Mm-hmm. Or put in enough grind that is validated $40 of work into the game, right? So with that said, let's just say I'm like a Reinhardt main, right? The $40 of work equivalent to money or time, I could have gotten 12 skins, all the stickers, all the emotes, maybe some anniversary skins, some premium skins, right? It's because I'm a dedicated player to Ryan. So what you're telling me is that for me to give up this work that I put into Ryan, I have to pay $40 to start over with your game? So that's the first argument they were saying about Concord, of how it failed versus Marvel Rivals. Now here's the thing. Marvel Rivals, the entry level is 0. Literally go in there, log in, and play the game. That's what I did, right? Yep. And hell, I had a fun time. I had a good time. And it looked really cool. It looked really good. Now, here's the thing. In the playtest, because a lot of people have been bringing up how the game looked. And I think Marvel Rivals has budget into it. The cutscenes from the in-betweens are like amazing. The character models are amazing. The voices are amazing, right? There's a lot of love put into this game, right? When it first came out and I saw the character models, I was like, oh, they look kind of weird because they don't look like what they look like in my memory. In the comic books, they're changed a little bit, right? Uh-huh. And like, for example, like Captain America, he looks like he's wearing like the Mjolnir chest plate from Halo, like but painted over the star, right? So to me, that's why I was like a little awkward about that. But then as I played it and I saw everybody around me had a little bit of different touch of Marvel Rivals, I was like, you know what? I don't stand out that different. Everybody kind of just looks like they're in this world of Marvel Rivals, right? But that's different because I'm taking an established character that I'm used to. I'm kind of looking at it as a conservative point of view. Like I know what Captain America looks like in my brain, right? So this character model looks weird to me because it's different. But as I'm playing it, I'm realizing it's the style of the game. They're not wanting everybody to look like their original character. They want them to look different. My
context is there.
Context is there, and my mentality changed. And I actually didn't like that when I first played the playtest. But then when I played this version, I was like, how come I hated this before? And now I'm okay with it, right? It was a weird, just a weird thing that happened to me that had to marinate a little bit. The only thing I can compare this to is when I first watched Napoleon Dynamite, I thought it was the dumbest movie on the planet. I'm not kidding, chat. That movie infuriated me. I was like, how can people just be stupid? That was my first opinion on Napoleon Dynamite. And then believe it or not, 3 months later, I watched it again and I thought it was the funniest shit ever. What changed? My perspective on what my expectation was, right? I was like, all right, is this like a serious movie? What kind of comedy is this? So my first watch, I was like, this is kind of dumb, right? Then I watched it and I stopped. Then something in my brain where like I tried to understand the humor more, and I watched it and I was like, this is actually quite hilarious. Like it's all in your mental like mindscape where you're coming from. Context is important. And this is why I say when you first touch a game, you're like, man, I'm not vibing with it. Come back to it later when you're in a better headspace, when
Context
you're more
and perspective.
Yeah, when you're more open-minded about trying it, and try to remove yourself from like your personal bias of like your experience with said games, and kind of experience it as it's an isolated experience for its own. I guarantee you'll enjoy yourself a little bit better than that. So that's my personal experience. I don't know, Ace, have you played Marvel Rivals, the recent one, in the playtest?
No, didn't hop into the playtest, and I haven't played it recently. I haven't even considered downloading it. And I, again, personal biases, but I mean, I've actually tried Overwatch, and again, it's one of those things where I just don't really find myself getting into PvP hero shooters that much.
All good, and that's totally fine, and like I said, I'm not into it either, but I used to be a big Overwatch player, and I would say I can healthily say I retired from Overwatch, right? Even when Overwatch 2 became free, I was
what I can say though is, well, I could definitely describe Marvel Rivals as the coolest game I will probably never play.
And I have a lot of games on my list that are exactly that. 100%.
But I mean, from what I've seen of it though, Marvel Rivals definitely looks like it captures the sort of, it'll definitely like for folks that got into Overwatch, the first one, right? You got into it because not only was it a hero shooter, but also because the character designs and a lot of the, upfront lore behind the game was just fun. Right? There was some serious hype there with Overwatch when it first came out.
And it was kind of like the first of its kind.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And look at this. You see this right here? It says, this guy quotes, "I think the trick is that you need to have a reason that people want to come and play your game." And I think Marvel Rivals does that exactly with the superheroes. So it's the character base, right? Like the character selection. Like
exactly.
And I'm pretty sure like you love a character and you go, man, this would be so cool if we had him in a brawler. Oh, this would be cool if they were in a fighting game, right? Like Gerald in Soul Calibur. Right? Geralt in Soul Calibur. I was like, I would have never thought of that, but that's awesome. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's pretty cool. Like, and that's kind of what I mean about that. But yeah, then these guys were just talking about like what would cause people to switch over and not switch over. A lot of it was investment in this previous game that I have to start at zero again, right? And spend money on. Time equals money in this world, right? And then the other thing was, well, is it worth it for me because of my interest and my personal bias? And this guy's saying, well, if you ever wanted to play Storm and you like playing Overwatch, this is your chance. And what's the cost? 0. So hence why there's 12 million people playing it now.
There you go.
So, and oh yes, Jagos, they did release a mighty 33 characters at once. I think that's like KOF levels of roster. That's crazy. That's value right there, brother.
33 heroes, and I think I saw an article on Twitter earlier where they're not done yet.
Oh no. They just started. And then I want to move on to the next article here. This article is coming from Screen Rant. And this is about what other games should learn from Marvel Rivals' new Battle Pass. So the long story short, the TLDR is what they call it, right? The TLDR for the Battle Pass is that there is no FOMO in the Battle Pass for Marvel Rivals. So they're saying that once you buy the Battle Pass, take your time, play it as much as you want, right? So you don't have to like be concerned about, I have to play it till December, otherwise I lose my Battle Pass.
Right. There's a time limit on it. Correct.
They do not have that. You buy the Battle Pass, it's yours to unlock for yourself. This is what they should have done in the first place for all these games. Like, they honestly, you buy it, you own it, you do what you want with it, right? Don't give me something that's make it FOMO if you're not paying for it, right? But if you are paying for it, you should own the Battle Pass, which means you can play it at your own speed and pace, right? Mm-hmm. Ironically, I don't think this author, who's the author here? Stephen Garrett has not played Helldivers 2, because in Helldivers 2, once you buy the Battle Pass, or the Freedom Pass, as you would say, you own it and you unlock it with the currency in any order you want. So in the game, you can, I don't know if you played Helldivers 2, but you can collect like currency in the game, right? Mm-hmm. Just play it and you'll get it. And you can, once you buy the pass, you have the ability to buy said things on that pass, right? So, and then once you buy the pass, you own it. So you don't have to wait on a time frame for it. You can come back to it years later and still play it, right? So, which is pretty good, pretty cool. And yes, I think if people moving forward, battle passes should be like this, just because it gives the players more agency to play at their own speed without the case of FOMO. Long story short. Okay. Oh, you can get currency in HD2 without putting money up? Yes. So, correct. And also, apparently in Marvel Rivals, the in-game currency is 1-to-1 to the actually paid currency, and you can exchange those. So they're doing a good job. They're doing a good job of like letting you have access to everything. But like I said, you can't buy it if you don't buy the Battle Pass. So that's how they're changing it up, right? So for you to have access to buy it, you have to get the Battle Pass. But the in-game currency, you just collect on your own, and you can use those for the Battle Pass. Pretty cool, honestly, to be honest with you. And the fact that 12 million people max, even if everybody just spent $1, they'd have $12 million. Right? That's what they're going for. And we know out there are some whales that spend a lot of money on video games. So if they can get 12 million people and 25% of them are whales, that's still a lot of money for them, But like I said, this game looks like it had a big budget, so hopefully, they make it back, or in some way or form we get Deadpool, we get Gambit, right? And man, how cool would it be if we got Professor X? Him in his little chair, just like violating people from like yards away. That'd be sick. So there's a lot of possibilities here with the Marvel roster. That's all I'm saying. So, all right. So the next order of business is another title came out, which was Path of Exile 2. Also came out that day, this weekend. And chat, let me know if you guys played Path of Exile 2 or played the first one. I've been doing a lot of not research, but I just been watching a bunch of videos on people's impressions on Path of Exile 2. And I kind of want to know yours and what you know about it and what your experiences are with it. So this way we can have a better conversation. So put it in chat or whatever you got. But let me switch these over and kind of address what these guys are concerned about. So this article is coming from Outer Haven, and it says grinding gear games to address concerns with dodging in Path of Exile 2. So this isn't exactly a problem in Diablo, but this is, if you guys don't know, Path of Exile is an action RPG, isometric, right? Very much Diablo-ish. That's all I gotta say. But in Path of Exile, you can't move through mobs. So if these hordes of guys trap you in a corner, you have to kill them, and you're stuck in the corner. You can't freely walk through them. And I think as a designer, that's on purpose, so you don't blow through the stage, right? Like, you're actually forced to like make smarter decisions and not just rush through the level. Okay, and a lot of people are having a bad time because they're getting pressured into a corner and just getting like obliterated, and like, you know, the hordes come after them and they're just stuck. So I want to know your thoughts are, you know, and tell us in chat, and like what do you think they should do? A lot of people are saying just get good. It shouldn't happen, right? But if you're a new player to the series and to this genre, are you having fun at this point when hordes of monsters just trap you in the corner and you can't get out of it, right? So let me know what you guys think. It looks like Ace has to take a break here, so it's all good. But yeah, and a lot of things I've been watching recently is that these guys are saying that, you know, it's not fun for me when I'm getting stuck in a corner and I'm getting just obliterated by these monsters. And if I was a new player, I wouldn't be having any fun. And if not, then, you know, like, I'm not going to play the game. And, you know, a lot of these new games are really catered to new players as well. Well, that was quick.
Yeah, I just had to refresh the page because, like, earlier there was a bot that came in through the Twitch chat, so I went and took care of that. But then I came back and I started getting a chat error, so I had to reload it. Gotcha.
Yeah, I took care of it on my end also. No bots in here. The only bots in here are already here. Bingo. No more spies.
It's like, listen, yeah, the only bots allowed in this chat, aside from Blue, are Gundams.
There you go. Mecha. And then the Metal Wolf. Metal Wolf Chaos. The President's mech. Yeah, but I don't know. I'm pretty sure you've played your share of ARPGs or this type of genre. What are your thoughts on this? Like, you can't move through stages, and then the frustration is that there's too many monsters on the screen and they can't get through them, and people are getting like body blocked, and they're getting trapped in the corner and they're dying. And because in this game there are monsters that hit you and you get stunned, and then, you know, when you get stun locked, and even in fighting games, that pisses people off, right? So imagine playing Diablo and 100 things on their screen are stun locking you into a corner. So, and a lot of people are expressing their concerns.
No, I definitely feel that. I mean, you know, well, as far as, like, you know, isometric ARPGs, I've gotten my fair share of time on Diablo 2, and if you count it, even though it's more of a roguelike, I've gotten in my fair share of time on Hades. But but it's the same. It's the same thing. If you don't have movement options for like actual evasion, even if it's just like a quick sidestep or a roll or something, you know, if you could just get immediately swarmed and body blocked, and you have no choice but to kill everything to move past the crowd, instead of at the very least being able to like move your way through partially and not have to kill so many, not only does it make it really, what's the word? Not only does it not feel good to play from a technical standpoint, but it also makes it real tedious.
Yeah. I mean, there's some other things in this game that add up to the player experience, right? So apparently when you die in this game, you lose your items, right? So that's rough. You know, I remember leveling down in Final Fantasy 11 when you die, and that feels bad, right? 100% feels bad. So I think there's got to be a way out of this. So for example, like I said, the intention of, getting body blocked by a mob is you don't rush through the level, right? You actually have to like experience engagement in the mobs, which is good. For example, here's what this article is coming from Keith Mitchell from Outer Haven. And he's saying, this is what Grading Gear, the developer, had to say. A lot of players have expressed frustration about being trapped in by monsters. While it is intended that monsters are able to trap you and kill you, so that was designed, built in, we felt that the frequency of this was a little too high. We will be deploying the following changes in an upcoming patch. Player size is now set to 0 units while dodge rolling instead of 1 unit. So I think like you can roll through them now, but you're still only rolling through like one like mob, right? You're still stuck in between if you're in a horde of them, right? Some smaller monsters can now be pushed while dodge rolling. This includes monsters such as the Adorned Beetles in Keth. Yeah, I mean, especially if you're playing like a ranged build, like if you're a sorcerer or something, right? And you want to be away from monsters. This is a big buff for those characters, right? But I think like you have to also consider the experience of the melee characters. You want to be in front of the face of all these monsters, right? Matter of fact, you should have a taunt that attaches more monsters to you, so your friends that are range can just wipe them down if you're playing multiplayer. Maybe that's something that should be built in, right? I've not played the game yet, so I can't say too much about it, but that's kind of like my first initial kind of like impressions about it, right? It said, you can still get trapped. A player size of a hero can still not phase through monsters, but it can get through even the smallest gap in between them, right? So it's like, it's saying like you can have a way out, right? But it's still like, but we still want you to get good. Like, don't get trapped. Maybe like, because I remember this in Diablo 1, right? I remember like playing as the warrior. I was like, man, it's really hard as the warrior because I'm always getting surrounded, right? And this is bringing me back to that. And then I realized doorways are my friend. Like that, and so I was able to fight monsters like 1 or 3 at a time in a doorway because now I've funneled them. That was like a strategy I had with the warrior, right?
Yep, setting up choke points.
Yeah, and I think that's more realistic than trying to roll through them like what they're expressing, so, but that has to go now back to the stage design, right? Do they even have doorways where you can do that? So, and there's more to it than just this. Like, people are still outraged by it, and I think I know why. So they're saying a change is better than no change, and even though we can still get blocked by enemies, at least there's some hope that we'll be able to slip through those spaces and push smaller creatures out of the way. As for how effective this will be, we'll have to wait till Path of Exile 2 patch gets released. So I'm glad that they're doing something and it's not too drastic, right? And I think one of the big things of this game is that a lot of players think this is Path of Exile 1, right? And 2 is supposedly, they're trying to make it more like Souls-like, where it's like, it's not going to be a breeze. Not like Diablo 4, where you can just like power, mash through everything, right? You can literally eat the controller and win. That's what Diablo 4 is, honestly. You press one button fast enough, you're going to win in the game, right? Because of your build. It's pretty busted. So what I'm hearing from the community on Path of Exile on both sides is some sides are saying this is way too hard. This is nothing like Path of Exile 1. I know, will not buy, whatever. And the other side's like, no, you have to think about it. This is Path of Exile 2. If you want to play the first one, go play the first one. This is intended to be a different experience for you, right? And a lot of players are like, you need to adapt and adapt to this new mechanic, adapt to this new style of gameplay, to your character. You have to be smarter when you play. You can't just brute force everything. And to be honest with you, I find myself playing Diablo 4 brute forcing a lot of this stuff because why would I have to think? I play Barbarian, right? Best gear, best abilities. That's it. You win. Like, there hasn't been a time where I'm like, wow, I really keep dying in this area and I don't know what I'm doing wrong. right? And every time I die, I know exactly how I died. I get stun locked, I can't heal, and my guy's like on the floor and he's stunned for 2 seconds, and in those 2 seconds, I have 0 armor and dodge, and so all the monsters kill me because they surrounded me. Right? That's frustrating. I know how they feel when they talk about body block. That's the feeling of getting body blocked in D4. So hopefully they don't go too crazy. They try to kind of like listen to both sides, and this is I feel like a good middle ground for that. And I'll pull up the other article here if you have something.
Yeah, actually that solution that they came up with is literally what I was thinking of. Like, it doesn't have to be like, complete invincibility to like phase through anything over the distance of your dodge roll, but at the very least giving a little bit more leeway as far as creating space.
Right. You get, with like adjustments and like early access. This is why they have early access. You want to get the public opinion on how these feel, and you also want new players, and you also want established players, right? And this is why we have people that are getting review codes. And I feel like this is a reason why our industry is going to shit, is because we're getting too much of that from people that. I'm not gonna say they're grifting, but like at the same time, it's like I feel like some people feed on the drama for attention, for like clout, whatever, right?
Without question.
And they're not looking at these things objectively. So, and this is one of the things that really got me excited to talk about Path of Exile 2, was that this article from N4G, where I get most of my news from, actually, is from Ksenia Grigorovich. Don't worry, you'll get through it. Path of Exile 2 community offers their best tips. This is the actual community saying, hey, this is what you need to do in certain things when that's going on in the game. And they're offering you tips, So for example, like some very good tips to get you started. If you're stuck, don't grind on that map. The OP suggested going back 2 or so monster levels to an open layout. Once there, re-clear it all in a couple of times according to the OP. You can load a new instance by shift clicking on the waypoint when you warp there. So it's like, stop trying to like brute force it. That's exactly what I was talking about. Stop trying to brute force it. Go back and grind a little bit more, level up, and then go back to it again. Kind of like the old school JRPGs, right? In Final Fantasy, if the monsters are kicking your butt, you either get the right items, or level up your characters, right? So that's kind of what it is. Another thing was another big complaint of Path of Exile 2 is that they were saying that their what do you call this? There's not enough loot drops, and so they're like, man, we need to get more loot. And this was the same issue in Diablo, honestly. Like, we need more loot drops. Now I'm like, loot, like, I don't know how to put this. Like, I'm worn out on picking up loot, right? So they listen to the community so hard that they go, we're just gonna pollute the ground with like items that you're not gonna use, right? And it's actually quite frustrating, because like what they need to do is decrease the type of loot you get, but the quality of loot you get should be amazing, right? And so that's the first issue I have with Diablo. Like, I'm at that point in the end game in D4 where there's like, I get so much loot when I clear an activity, but like 99% of the drops are useless because what I have on is the best already, right? So, and that's what I mean by that. It's like in the beginning, it's a little rough, of course, but you're still like experiencing. You're exponentially making your character better with better loot. But once you get to the end game, it's just all trash at that point, and you only get like 1 out of the 12 items that drop. You're like, oh, this is the better stat. Like, I'll just put that on. But at the end game, you end up kind of like enchanting and transmogging your own loot anyway. So loot drops are kind of pointless unless you're going for farming materials. And I'm pretty sure you're well aware of that in Warframe, So yeah, so that's, I mean, some of the problems of early access games. I don't know, Ace, are you getting more chats in the chat? I think the last chat I got was from Jagos.
Oh, in terms of the servers and such.
Yeah, that's the Triple G.
Yeah,
that's the last. Okay, so making sure mine didn't break. Okay, okay, cool.
No, we're all caught up.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and then and it's cool because right now the Path of Exile 2 players, they're actually banding together and having a lot of really positive discourse. Like these are from like little comments from other players here. So what this is, Garlisle Wilds noted, my number one tip is dodge roll less, right? It's not a omni tool or a get out of jail free card. It will help you with projectiles, and it will help you if you are diving out of the way of an AoE and might not make it in time. But that's mostly it, right? So, and Mentai Garden stated, so far I find life regen to be very helpful, even a small amount of it, but it won't save you. My other thing would be to play around with shock armor and break stun. So I think a lot of gamers have gotten lazy with how they play their game. Like I said, D4, you pretty much brute force it. Right? You can beat the game any build. It's almost like it's guaranteed you're gonna beat the game, but it's how you beat the game. Right? That's my personal opinion on that. So what I'm seeing right now is actually a great innovation of like the game is it's causing gamers to think about their choices now and how they play the game, right? Versus like this is the meta, and then it'll make the game super easy for you. I don't want that in a game. I want to be able to overcome it by like being smarter in the game because this is what I paid for.
Right.
You know, like I paid for
It's like, you know, how it was when Armored Core 6 first came out and people were getting filtered hard by that first boss.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Unfortunately, like new gamers, like if new to the IP, like Armored Core, if it's your first time, you've never played Dark Souls, but you love mechs, right? Having a bad experience on that first stage may stop you from playing Armored Core, period. Right? 6, period. Right? But like as an established player, you're very familiar with Armored Core. Hell, if you even played Dark Souls but not Armored Core, right? I have a buddy that played Armored Core 6, never played Armored Core before, but the fact that he's played every Dark Souls game, he's like, dude, I love the Armored Core, right? So like it's because it borrowed a few mechanics from what you would do in Dark Souls into Armored Core 6. So he loved it. But like that's like one of the rare things, right? Because like I said, if a new player doesn't haven't played both, they're kind of playing blindfolded. And right now they're trying to make games easier for people because they want them to have a good experience. But what does that tell you about those people that have not, you know, have had those experiences in the past, right? Are we missing out because they want new clients that potentially won't buy the game, or should they cater to us because we're the dedicated fans and we're going to buy the game anyway because we love the series, right?
It's a balance.
Yeah, and them figuring that out, that needs to be figured out for them as well. So hopefully, the gaming industry shapens up, and you know there's a balance in some way or form. All right, let's see. That's pretty much. Oh yeah, I got one more. I wanted to share you real quick because this is important. So a little game that everybody loves to talk about is no longer being supported anymore. So Rocksteady reveals that the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League support is ending in January. I don't know if you knew this, but this game was $5 for the last week because they were probably just trying to give away the codes for this game, right? And even at $5, the game had tops 3,000 concurrent players. Like for a game that's been out for a year, has 4 seasons. Yeah, it's going to receive its final update in January. This article is coming from The Gamer by Johnny Flores Jr.
And the question is, what is offered in that update?
Yeah, why do you say that? Because I actually have that. So it's announced Monday, episode 8 will bring to an end to the support of the game through its online functionality will remain till it's pretty much when it's done. Let's see here. It says the game was one of 2024's biggest stories, reportedly resulting in a $200 million loss for Warner Bros. So that's a big one. So the big thing is that they're releasing one more update for it, and I actually have the update here. I wanted to make sure I knew somebody was gonna ask that. The last season will be 5. I think the next season is going to be 4, which will be the last season, right? And this is season 4. And it's not really a deep dive. Stop lying, Warner Brothers. So they're adding Deathstroke to the game, finally. And I think people wanted this, and he's actually a good fit with the game, because this was like Sunset Overdrive. Guys, if you haven't played just Suicide Squad, and you probably haven't, it's the feel of the game is like Sunset Overdrive. If you guys don't know what that game was, a really obscure, like open world, like third person shooter on the Xbox. Had more personality and character than this game. And they took that and they put it with Justice League and Suicide Squad characters, right? And of course, you got Captain Boomerang, Big Sharkman, right? Deadshot and Harley Quinn are your 4 characters. And they were kind of a hit and miss with the crowd. They thought they were going to be cooler, but they weren't. The big complaint from a lot of people were like the supporting cast was awful. Like they had a child Poison Ivy. They had like a gender swap Dr. Freeze that's still like a woman wife. It was really strange. Like, what the heck? Why not just a husband instead? It was really weird. And the characters were not attractive looking. Like, video gamers, they like want hot girls, they want like beautiful men, vice versa, right? And they just didn't get that with this game, and that was like one of the concerns that was brought up. So, and they were like, where are the cool characters? Joker wasn't Joker. He was like some weird multiverse Joker that was like not like a killer. It was really weird. Yeah. Anyway, so having Deathstroke added to it as like the actual Deathstroke, I think they were like, oh, okay, finally a character that I can really like, right? So they're trying to get them. They're trying to get those people back. And yes, Blue, there is an offline mode, right? So there was a lot of things that really hit this game hard, because Rocksteady's known, and we were talking about this, Ace, about like companies being good at certain types of games to being made. Rocksteady's good at open world like action games like Batman, right? Then they were slapped with this like third person live service shooter. It's like, why the hell would Rocksteady make that, right? So and I think why the game was delayed so many times there was probably internal conflict of how this game should be. And then I think ultimately Warner Brothers said, you need to make this a shooter because that's what everybody likes. Even casuals like that, and everybody likes Justice League, whatever, yada, yada. So they were forced to make something like that. But yeah, the last season will offer offline mode. So yes, you can play it, offline now, which is good. Which means you can still play the game after it's been supported. Kind of like Exile Primal, right? I mean, Exile Primal's online, but what I'm saying is that like the game's not supported anymore, but at least you can play it. That's like the big thing. At least you can still play it. This game, some people spent over $150 on launch for this game, and I'm glad they can still play it after they stop supporting it. So I'm glad.
Because if something happened and it was like delisted.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Well, here's the thing too, right? They actually had intention to release Batman as the last character as their like Hail Mary for like let's reset by putting Batman in the game, right? And I think that was like their plan all along. Maybe they were going to get each Justice League member back into the game as like maybe the last character of each season pass, right? And yeah, it's not going to happen. They spent way too much money on it, and it's honestly too late. Like nobody cares. Like nobody cares. They're going to play Marvel Rivals now. And I think this puts DC and WB in a weird situation where they're probably looking at the numbers for Marvel Rivals, and I got a funny feeling DC is going to make something like Marvel Rivals now. I have a funny feeling just because that's how their brains work.
Probably. I mean, but considering that, it's still really a surprise, with DC and Marvel, competing against each other as per usual. It's still a surprise that Marvel hasn't tried stepping into the MMO market. Whereas DC still has DC Universe.
I agree. But here's the thing, though. Like Marvel is also um stopping the support of a variety of games that they have. Like they have these like Marvel Strike Force, like
Hmm.
Omega, right? They stopped supporting them. Ultimate Alliance was like technically not supported for a while, right? Or delisted. So I'm glad it came back. Honestly, I honestly believe they should make more of them. And have that be a freaking, hate to call it, but if they're gonna make a live service, they should make it Ultimate Alliance because you can always download more characters and add to it, right?
Right.
And the fact that they have like co-op supers, like that adds more value to your current roster also as well. So I hate to say it, but yeah, I mean, I don't think they need to be honest. I think Marvel Rivals is their MMO that they're looking for, and they got it. And I don't blame
No, that
them.
makes sense.
It's a fun game. It's a cool looking game. So all right, well that's enough articles for today, and let's see what we got here. I want to make sure that let's do a little fancy reboot. Let's reboot, we reassess. But yeah, get your physical copy of Suicide Squad, whatever you can. Don't make sure you don't pay any more than $20 for it.
Seriously.
Just part of gaming history. Okay, so next up here is I got Ace here to talk about his experience of what he's playing right now with the first Descendant season 2. So Ace, take the floor and let us know what's popping with this. As somebody that has dabbled into the game, played probably like a couple hours into it, very impressed. What's season 2? How's it looking, and why should I play it?
So season two is the start of a pretty massive slate of not just content updates, but quality of life changes and quality of life improvements for the first Descendant that honestly, like I'm already I'm already full steam ahead on this game anyway. But if I were considering taking a break from it, this right here, especially, again, the quality of life stuff that was being introduced is definitely what would bring me back because not only do they introduce, a new playable character with Keelan, the suave gentleman in the shades, but the uh, the lady up there in that key artwork as well, Inez, his partner, she will be coming to the game next month, actually. So we've got two new characters coming this season. We've got an ultimate variant of what was considered one of the more specialized and definitely underutilized characters, and that that character is also getting a massive set of improvements and buffs to her kit. And then on top of that, they also introduce animal companions. So you can have your own little canine unit running around with you too. But like honestly, a lot of the changes that have come with season 2 have been due to fan and player feedback. Uh so you've played a couple of hours of the game. So I think you've had the chance to at the very least dabble in like some of the equipment management, like with the reactors, which beef up characters' special skill
Yeah,
systems, right?
like the mods of the game, and the core system of the game is the guns, right? I
Mm,
saw like how you can pretty much cater to how you want to play the game with the variety of your weaponry, right?
yep.
It's pretty deep too. Like if you really want to go into it, like yeah, there's a lot to offer.
And there were some things that the player base wasn't quite feeling, especially with the reactors, like you know certain certain stats showing up on reactors that just didn't make sense, even though a lot of it's randomized. Let's see, between that and of course being able to not only further improve your reactors to increase your damage, but also being able to like add additional. Just really quickly, part of what the reactors did was you got a considerable boost in attack power for your skills based on having certain weapons or weapon types equipped. Uh, with season 2, they actually give you the option to graft or add additional weapon types to a reactor to pretty much forge like your perfect set of equipment. And I mean like really, something that's really specified not just to your character but also to your play style.
Okay, so they increase the like weapon forging pretty
Yep.
much.
Yep, they increased the weapon forging. And another thing, of course, you know, like you were talking about earlier, this game has really incredibly well designed characters, attractive characters, both male and female.
Mhm.
And one thing that they actually did was they basically, I guess you could say, they unrestricted customization because during the first season, during the early part of the game's lifespan, you know, you had to actually get alternate skins in the shop in order to be able to actually customize your character's look and customize the paint, customize the colors. As of season 2, they actually opened up the ability, which should have been there from the start, but they actually opened up the ability for you to customize the color palette of your chosen character's default skin right from the jump.
Wow. All right. And I like seeing that. I like hearing that. The fact that these small quality of life changes are happening.
So yeah, and then on top of that, just with the like for anyone looking to get back into the game, let alone anyone who's getting into it, there are a good number of events going on, especially like for the holidays, where if you just take the time to log in, and I think it doesn't have to be consecutive days, but if you log in for at least like 14 days over the course of the event and you like participate in the login, in the event login, you actually will wind up getting a character for free, like one
Oh,
of one of the ultimates, one of the prime variants, for free. And all you gotta do is just log in, play the game for a little bit every day.
that's all they ask for sometimes. Daily logins and stuff like that. That's
Yep.
that's that's the stuff publishers want to hear. The stats that they want to hear. Like how many people are playing right now? How many people are logging in each day? That's
And
the big thing.
and yes, while there was talk of the concurrent player amount actually like starting to dip, the fact of the matter is, that's the kind of thing that happens. A game's new, everybody's trying to get in on it, but the concurrent player account is going to dip and eventually equalize because you've got your long-term player base that's going to be sticking around. And then after a certain point, more people are going to jump in as new content comes in,
Is
or more,
there
or more people are going to come in, due to word of mouth from those, long-time players, from those core players.
has there been a spike since season 2 released? Have you checked?
That there has been a bit of a spike since season 2 released. Again, the new content, not just with characters, but also new gameplay modes, new stages, and also how certain of the current gameplay modes had actually been tweaked for not just ease, but for more, what's the word, more variety in terms of the farming, the overall grind of the game.
December 5th must have been the release date for the expansion because there was a huge spike.
Yep.
Literally. So December 4th, the concurrent player max was about 9,900, so about 9,000, like 10,000 people pretty much.
Hmm.
And then immediately when it was out, it spiked up to 25. So it brought back half the player base to like check it out. And right now, as we speak, there's about an average of 22 high, 13 low, right? So it's like people are coming back in and trying it out, making sure like they like it or not. If they're gonna retain, we don't know, but it's good to see the numbers pop back up when new stuff comes out, and then this is why people want updates to their games.
Exactly.
I feel like the same thing with fighting games. New character comes out, player base comes back with a new character for the first week. You're gonna see Eddie Gordo for the first week if that's a new character, right?
Yep.
So that's just how it is. Good, right on. So here's the thing. My question for you is, and I'm pretty sure I've asked this, but let's make sure. If I was a Warframe player, why would I switch to the First Ascendant?
Well, simply put,
Or would I switch to the First Ascendant?
well, if you were a Warframe player, this coming from a Warframe player, the First Descendant would definitely be something that you would want to check out. It's an alternative to Warframe. It's something that, let's say if you're looking for a game that plays a little bit closer to Destiny, with more of a focus on gunplay as opposed to melee, more of a focus on gunplay and how that interacts with the character's powers, then yeah, the First Descendant would definitely be something you'd at the very least look into. Taking a look at the character designs and how they're unique compared to the character and suit designs in Warframe. The First Descendant would actually be something that's a little bit easier to actually get into, because I mean, hell, with Warframe, it's very futuristic, it's very sci-fi, it's very alien.
Yeah, it's true.
Whereas with the First Descendant, you've got player characters that are basically human. So it's that sort of connection that immediately gets you.
It's one of those pick your poison, your aesthetic, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I was always curious about that. So for the record, guys, I don't know if I just checked, but Warframe has been around for quite some time, and right now their current players are actually double the player base of the First Descendant. So it's very good to see that it's holding up quite well.
Oh yeah.
So that's good. That's good. Yeah, it's tough because when you're faced with multiple titles to play, like which one do I focus on? Like I only have X amount of time. So
and if anything, all things considered, I mean, there is a pretty big update coming for Warframe pretty soon. But even with that, you may still want to stick, you may still want to play looter shooters, but you might get burnt out on Warframe.
There you go.
The First Descendant's a good alternative, especially since that one is also free to play.
And usually, like, in these type of games, there's like dailies and weeklies, right? I feel like once you get to that point where you played enough, you'll just do the dailies and then like move on to another game, right? So, yeah, I can see that. And what's the investment cost for this?
Like I said, it's free to play.
There you go. There you go, chat. There you go. If anybody's new into the channel, free to play. It's a good alternative to Warframe if you like Warframe. It's not one of those, why should I move over? It's, you should add it to playing Warfare.
Exactly.
Warframe.
Why not both?
Yeah, there you go. Awesome, man. Well, appreciate that. Any other closing statements on season 2?
If you've already played through season 1, Keelan, his play style is actually, and this isn't just from me, but also taking a look at the community on Reddit and in Discord, a lot of folks are saying that, the new character, Keelan, his play style is a lot more engaging. His play style is very engaging because even though he still has abilities where, you're going to be at range, most of his ranged abilities are literally just to prime enemies for you to dish out the most damage with Onslaught, which is literally just a straightforward dash. So he runs in, he gets up close, sets off the dot damage that he does, and then follows it up with gunfire.
It's like fighting games in general. Like as the game progresses, the characters will get more complex in how you play the game, right? So it's good to see that he's more engaging because like for example, in Marvel Rivals, you play Punisher and you're just literally playing Soldier 76. You're just shooting. Like that's all you do, right?
But then if you switch over to someone like, say, Bucky.
Oh man, Bucky's like Doomfist. He's all over the place. I love it.
Yep.
Yeah, he's so fun. Like he's actually one of the strongest characters in the game, aside from that stupid shark. That shark is busted. That shark's busted. Yeah, that shark's busted. So, anyway, awesome, man. Appreciate it, and the Contra Boys appreciate it too. That is the First Descendant I'm now playing. Last week I talked about my now playing was Shadow of War, or Middle Earth, and I'm playing the definitive edition. and I was playing it all over the weekend, and I was like, that was literally my weekend. I just absorbed, my time was absorbed by this game, and I remember playing Shadow of War, and this is Shadow of Mordor, sorry, and this is just way more. It's just more of that. Like, so in the end of Shadow of Mordor, you build up your army to take over this fortress. And in this game, it's literally that. Like, you play for the first 2 hours is story mode of like introducing you to the mechanics of the game, right? And then the middle portion of the game is side quests, but they don't get unlocked unless you do the siege missions like this, right? Which is more of the last mission of the first game. So as I'm playing this, I'm like understanding more and more that I'm like literally playing the last portion of the first game, and my view kind of changed in the game. And the reason why is because last time I said, and now playing, I said, yeah, this game was cool. Like I thought it was like, the game looked good, and and I was playing and I was having a good time, and I'm playing on Nemesis mode, it's a little bit more difficult, right? Those things all still hold true. The difference is the gameplay loop, right? So I think Shadow of War was the beginning of when games started to get bloated, because there is a lot to collect, there is a lot to unlock in this game, and I'm like, do I really want to do those things? I have so many other games to play, right? And unless I'm looking for a platinum, it's just busy work. Honestly, I can only jump up to a building to oversee the location of all the pickups of the area so many times before I'm like, this is getting old, right? I'm noticing that without the Nemesis system, as intricate and funny and detailed and unique as it is, I'm honestly doing the same thing for hours and hours, right? And honestly, like, the Nemesis system is what kept me from being bored, because the orcs had so much personalities that I was like, I'm so excited to kill the next one and what they're gonna say to me. Like, that's funny that's how I was thinking, but honestly, that's how I felt. Blue says, I don't know Dragon Age Inquisition, but the bloat game, it was a bloat game for you. Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff that was like, you got to collect 5 poems to unlock this item, right? But the item that I got wasn't necessarily as good as the items that were randomly dropping when I killed an orc, of a specific caliber. So anyway, I would say my opinion if I voted an 8 on Shadow of War in my now playing, I would say I would downgrade it to a 7 now. Just because the gameplay loop did a good job of impressing me at first, but as I played it for more than the first few hours, I started noticing like I'm literally doing the same thing again, and I'm in a progress blocking game where I can't finish the story unless I actually do some of this side stuff, right? So I'm like, okay, there's the bloat, there's the progress blocker, because they're forcing me to do a thing that I have to do that's really optional, to be honest, to continue the story, which I'm the most interested in, right? So it lost a point for me there. Now, this is not now playing. This is what's your price. So what would be the price for this game? Well, the game went into a money value overhaul. So initially this came out $60, right? Base game, came out with DLC, right? You had to pay for all those DLCs. I believe there are 2 DLCs expansions that you can get, and also a bunch of other small skins and stuff like that, right? So let's just say that's $100, $60 for the game, $20 DLC, $20 DLC, $80, $100, right? I got all that in the definitive edition for $20. And I logged, I think last time I checked, was 18 hours in this game already. And so I divided that by 30, and I think I got like $2.1 per hour. And I'd say that's a damn good value and I haven't even touched DLC yet. So there's a lot more to play. So if you like this type of game, you like Lord of the Rings, this is probably a really good value proposition for you. You get a lot of game for $20. You get a full game for $20. The only thing that I saw that was missing was that there's an online component where you can send your orcs to battle other orcs from other fortresses online, but that's no longer supported. And that's okay, because it does not stop me from having a good time. I just said it just said I wasn't able to do it because there's no servers available. So that's all right. It's not game debilitating. It's just a thing that was optional, that was fun to validate online play, and it's just not there anymore. And that's okay with me. So what's my price for this game? $20 is a great deal. If you find it for 20 or less, you are pretty much playing a $100 plus game for $20, meaning you're ripping off Warner Bros. For $80, and that should be plenty of money for you to save up if you bought Justice League or Suicide Squad. So I killed the Justice League. So if you ever feel you want to get your money back, instead of asking for that refund, go buy this game if you're interested in Lord of the Rings or Assassin's Creed, and even just simply check out the Nemesis system. It's super interesting. It's super cool. Yeah, and with that said, that's my what's your price, and I'll leave it up to the host of Smash TV, to say this.
I'd buy that for $1.
Damn sure I would too. So I finally found the track, and I wanted to add that on there. So
yes.
And speaking of saving money, we're moving on to the next one, unless you got something to say about Shadow of Warriors.
Actually, I got my copy of Shadow of War when it was on like a super deep discount, and again, also the definitive edition.
Nice.
But like, I initially got it for free on PSN, and then after a while, I let my subscription lapse because Sony being Sony. So I ended up getting the physical disc for like $5. I got the physical disc for $5, but since I still had, the expansions from the DLC, I just popped that in and boop, everything came back.
4 expansions, 1 pass, all included. Unfortunately, it's not on the disc; it's on a code. But hey, it's $60 of content on the pass that's already included. So that's awesome. Added to Value City. So if you're looking for a good time for not much money, Shadow of War. Guys, all right, everybody's been waiting for this, so let's go ahead and, of course, get to what's the deal, because I know you guys love what's the deal.
We want to save money.
We're all about that here at the Academy. All right. So I'm here to save you guys some money, and if it's your first time here, this is the segment of the show where I show you what's the deal for the last week and a few days forward. And if you see any games on here, feel free to check out our affiliate link and buy those games off Amazon. Any purchases will go directly straight to the Academy, and we can do more fun stuff. So, I just want to throw that out there for you. But first things first, here we go. All right, so I saw this little fun thing that was on sale. So if y'all remember Mousetrap, as for your board game, they actually made a tabletop version of Super Mario Adventure game DX, notably the tabletop skill and action game with collectible action figures, but it plays just like Mousetrap, and it's only $12 on Amazon Prime. So if you're looking for something fun that's like physical, that's not a video game, but a video game related, and under $20, it's good value for you. All right, and apparently this is still on sale with an update, but Double Dragon Gaiden Rise of Dragons is still on sale for $19.60 on PS4 and 5. That is great value. And I remember last time we were on the show, this was only on sale on the Switch, but it is now finally on sale on the PS4 and PS5. And yes, I will get a copy for my PS5 because I already have it on Switch, because it's a good game. Now for you anime weebs out there, we have the Sword Art Online Fractured Daydream. If you are a fan of Sword Art and been playing their games they've been releasing left and right, because I feel like they release one every year and it's hard to follow. And if you have a Switch, this one here is going to be less than retail value at $33.90 via Amazon, and it is Prime eligible. Now, my choice for the night is Blazing Strike. Normally a $40 game, you get $10 off on the Switch via Amazon, but Blazing Strike I think was made partially from Street Fighter 3 devs or fans of Street Fighter 3. So if you're looking for the old school high frame pixel count fighting game like Third Strike, Blazing Strike is the game for you. Go check it out when you guys can. Matter of fact, I might have to do a playthrough on my channel for this. And yes, Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1 is still on sale, and it is only $20 on the PS5, the Switch, Xbox One. You get more than 3 games in your collection, right? And they're gonna do a follow-up to this with Volume 2. So if you have Amazon or Best, go to your Amazon and Best Buy and check it out. Pick it up now on either of those systems. Now this one's kind of an off weird one, but if you like shoot 'em ups, shmups, Raiden 4 Cross Mikado Remix, which is music from a DJ, I believe a DJ Mikado, is now on sale for half, 50% off for $24.50 on the Switch. This game is also available on the PS4 and PS5, and it is it's a pretty rare title. So if you're looking to collect, pick it up when you can. All right, and for those JRPG fans, Persona 3 Reloaded, which is a remake of Persona 3, pick it up now for half the value, $24.99, 50% off via Amazon. Great value for this game if you like the JRPGs. Once I think Sega has a sale because they got Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth also on sale for $25. PS5, PS4, if you have any of those consoles. I know Andre is in the chat and he loves those games, so if anything, ask him and he'll give you the lowdown on it. We got to get you on for a Now Playing, Andre. Great game, there you go, worth the value.
Yep.
And last but not least, if you are interested in collecting a part of history Game & Watch Super Mario Bros. Console, no, this is not the original Game & Watch, but the console itself is designed after the original, but now you can play Mario Brothers on it for less than $50, $40.98. So I think I bought mine for $50, but I bought it locally at Reset, and it wasn't on sale. So that's a good deal if you're looking to collect and just kind of display it. It's super cool because Game & Watch was like one of first handheld Nintendo ever made. So, but yeah, that is what's the deal. It's kind of light on the what's the deal this time because everybody just had their Black Friday sale, right? They've already bought all their presents, so I think the sales that you'll see now till next year are going to be kind of like stocking stuffers and last minute gifts, kind of like that's why you see a lot of games for $25, stuff like that. These are just inventory they're trying to kind of cut loose, so this way next quarter they have more space on their shelves to sell more. So yeah, that's going to be a thing for that for everybody. So awesome. All right, man. Well, let's see here. What else do you got, Ace? You got anything that you want to share to the students? Any plans for the holiday? We're not going to have a stream for the next couple of weeks. I'll be in California.
As far as plans for the holiday go, well, aside from, just as a quick bit of prologue, on Sunday, I wound up doing an impromptu stream, testing out the PS3 because I finally got the Elgato plus the cord for it.
Hell yeah.
Got that working, and I streamed about an hour's worth of Anarchy Reigns.
Oh, let's go.
So over the next couple of weeks and going into the new year, we're going to be, basically, we're going to be reviving the backlog. So now we're really going to be getting into, adding more retro and more classic titles to the stream schedule as well. And yesterday also I got into a bit of a conversation with the chat about, since we were talking about Marvel Rivals and how, that game would actually make a great, ARPG or a great beat 'em up, like what, that Marvel Rivals could have been, Marvel Rivals is what Marvel's Avengers should have been, just in hero shooter form as opposed to a ARPG or beat 'em up like Marvel's Avengers was, right?
Yeah, and I gotta be real with you, man. I like the Avengers when it came out.
Heck
right?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I thought it was a more complex version of Marvel Ultimate Alliance. Right? Ultimately, that's what it was.
Oh, that makes sense.
Right? The issue with that game wasn't necessarily like the gameplay or anything. It was the god freaking marketing, because I spent the first month of going, what kind of game is this? Because they never showed gameplay, right? And so immediately I thought, am I playing like God of War? Right? Like, like character action game, right?
Yeah.
Because it didn't feel like Devil May Cry, right? It felt more like God of War, or Resident Evil 4, where you're behind your character, right? You do this combat. And so I feel a lot of people like felt my feeling of that game because their marketing was so poor on how they presented it. I didn't know what kind of game it was until I started playing it when it was too late already, because everybody had made up their mind already.
right? And
You know,
then there's there's the whole over promising and under delivering as far as the content goes. Like
yeah, and here's
they were talking about trying to they were talking about putting out updates at a rather consistent clip, like
yeah, and I think that
at
was
least a
the
month every two.
I think that was under the expectation it would be as good as Marvel Rivals on launch, right? But they didn't have that. So I do remember seeing the leak for like characters planned. They had like She-Hulk, they had Ant-Man, they had like all these cool. Doctor Strange was gonna be in there, right?
Yeah.
So they had all these like cool characters I was looking forward to. Matter of fact, if you I don't know if you can buy it anymore, but if you still have your copy of Avengers, the last DLC that they gave you for free was War Machine, but they just call it Iron Man's extra suit.
Yeah, it's literally just like it's
Skin.
literally just like an extra skin for Iron Man.
Yeah, but honestly, they were working on War Machine.
Mhm.
That's what it was for. But then they just go, we're done. Because I think they were still gonna do She-Hulk, but then they gave up after that. They decided to cut it off. Which
Yeah.
that game to me had a really long lifespan for me because I love the genre. I would have played that a lot. But man, I wish they would have just expressed that more during like the marketing. Like if you guys like Marvel Ultimate Alliance with a little bit of like character action in there, you're gonna love Avengers. But yet they were just kind of like, I felt like they were trying to avoid what it was because they would just show cutscenes all the time.
Right. It's like they were still trying to ride the whole ride the MCU wave,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it came off as really the marketing for it came off as it was a comic book game that was ashamed of its comic book roots.
That's the best way to explain it. Yeah, I think they were writing the coattails of the movies because one of the biggest things I saw online at the time, they were like, they didn't look like the people in the movie, right? And I'm like, that's not the point. Like,
it's not just that they didn't look like the MCU; it's that they tried to go. It's like they tried to go halfsies on the design, right?
Yeah, you're right. And,
it wasn't
here's
even
the
that they
thing:
didn't look like the MCU. It's that they looked like, they looked like great value MCU, like bargain basement Dollar Tree MCU.
And we're going back to how characters look, right? Like that's a big thing. Like no matter how many people say, like it doesn't matter as long as it's fun, it's important. It's graphics is what it drives people to take a look. Gameplay is what retains them, right? Support is what keeps them happy.
Yep, people come for the visual design. They stay for the mechanical.
Yeah, man, I wish like we can go to a different timeline where that game succeeded because I would have loved that. Because every time I pick it up and I play it, I still have a good time. Like it's just like a turn your brain off and just bash robots. And that was one of the big things is that they needed more varieties in mobs, right? Like that was a big ask from the community. So
yep.
And I gotta be real, the single player, I had fun with the single player experience, right? Like that was the story mode. I had a good time, but not everybody shared my sentiment. I also think it came out in a weird time. We had COVID, right, at the time. Like we were just gutting into COVID, and so that killed a lot of support for it. And and you know what? When people love something, they get really particular about it, and everything just stops for them, right? They don't see anything else. They just see that one issue, and that's what happens. And I don't blame them. They're fans, right? They want to be happy. So, dang, that brought back some sore spots. Avengers. But yeah, I mean, chat. I know Blue was looking to do the Game Awards. I think he said Thursday our time, right? I don't know what everybody had planned for that. I would love to kind of watch that with the community. We could do it on here. We could do it on your channel. I think and on Twitch we can do guest streamer invites where, and then I can just pop up on a cam for your stream, so we can do that. Whatever works. So that'd be fun. Before is that this Thursday?
I don't remember right offhand.
Or next Thursday. This Thursday maybe, but next Thursday for sure I can, because this Thursday I might be watching that new Lord of the Rings anime, which I'm also hearing bad things about. So you don't mess with the fan bases, man. I'm telling you, internet chat, don't mess with the fan base. They are rabid, they're filthy, and they love everything about what they love, right? And I think right now That
Also, it's this Thursday.
is this Thursday. Here's the thing. I think fans feel infiltrated that non-fans are jumping into some things that they love and are trying to change it. And I can see like where they're coming from, and it feels bad because like, you know, we're going back to the story where, you know, we go back to playing video games to escape from those bullies, right? Like they thought I was weird, so I'm just gonna play video games. Now those same bullies are jumping into our hobbies because that's what's cool, and they're trying to change it up, you know, because that's not how they see it. We've been there for the longest time, and then they've been there for a month, and they're going, yeah, this is how we can make it better by doing this. Right. But we've been experiencing that for like years, you know, and I feel like a lot of people are feeling the same sentiment, and they feel violated because like this was their like, you know, their escape. And now those people are part of that escape now, and they're trapped again. So, yeah, you know, just hang in there, guys. So anyway, any last, this sounds like I'm a mafia, but any last statements for tonight's podcast?
Well, seeing as how the Game Awards is coming up this Thursday, I don't know if we're going to be watching it live, but we are definitely going to be talking about it. Especially, I mean, hell, if anything, I'll probably be talking about it on a stream at some point. You know,
yeah, if you wanna do it this Saturday, whatever. Like, if you wanna wait, I can wait. I don't care. I rather have an authentic experience with my friends than watching it by myself. That's all I'm saying. So whatever works for you guys, let me know what works, and we'll figure it out. We can do it on here. And like I said, this is the easiest because like I feel like this is the best way to do it. But either way, yeah. Anything else?
Yeah. Other than that, just again, you know, keep an eye out for rebuilding the backlog. We're gonna be. Oh, I'm thinking probably tomorrow, since I'm, you know, probably not going to be playing, you know, Warframe or the First Ascendant on stream because I play that a lot already. But I'm thinking tomorrow, we're definitely going to be jumping back on the PS3. We're going to get started on some Anarchy Reigns, maybe switch over to TMNT Mutants in Manhattan. You know, Wednesday and especially Thursday, you know, throwback Thursdays at Aces. You're definitely going to want to check that out if you want to see some of the old school favorites.
All I gotta say is, do you own all the Platinum games on PS3 yet? That are exclusive to PS3, because you know you can play Bayonetta anywhere, right? But like,
right. So let's
Anarchy Reigns. What else is there?
Anarchy Reigns.
You need Binary Domain. No, that's a Sega game. Never mind.
Yeah, Binary Domain is strictly Sega.
Vanquish
I don't have yet, but Vanquish also isn't exclusive anymore.
Well, it started on the PS3.
It started on the PS3, but you know, Vanquish, you know, got that 10th anniversary collection with Bayonetta.
Yeah.
So if we're going
that's a good question. I'm gonna look that up. PS3 Platinum games. I was gonna probably look up like trophies. Platinum games library. Oh boy.
So yeah, the ones that are still on the PS3 are Legend of Korra and Anarchy Reigns. I know those two for sure.
Are you still able to buy Legend of Korra?
That's digital only.
Yeah, but you're still able to buy it. I think they delisted it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sucks. According to this, it's only this list is wrong because they don't even have Anarchy Reigns on here. Vanquish, Metal Gear Revengeance. I would love to see you play through that again. Transformers Devastation. Wonderful 101. That'd be a fun one. Have you played that on stream yet?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see here.
Yeah, because Wonderful 101 is actually like the remaster came out on Steam.
Okay. Have you ever played Astral Chain on the Switch?
No. And
that'd be a good one.
Switch.
That'd be a fun series for you going for platinum. That'd be a fun one. Huh? There's a weird one called Sol Cresta on the PS4. Have you heard of that?
Heard of it? I haven't played it though.
And the only other one on this list that you probably are not interested in is Star Fox Zero. That's about it. Unless you want to try Infinite Space on the DS, which is a weird, like a what is it, like a puzzle like chat game. I don't know. It's really weird. Let's see. There are cases some people change for the better. You got some good ideas. Awesome, man. Hey, you know what? Changing for the better is always good. Change is a positive thing. I know we try to resist it, but change is growth. Okay. And, even here's the thing, if things are looking bad, things are going to get better a lot sooner than you think. And I can give you an example of this. Okay. I'll tell you right now before I give you the closing statement, chat, because I love you guys. About 2 months ago, I had separated from my girlfriend at the time. Right. And of course I was sad because I was disappointed. Like, it didn't turn out the way I wanted to. Right. And then I was patient. I wasn't upset. I was like, hey, this is the reality of it. Right. And believe it or not, maybe 2 weeks ago, a week ago, I got a message from one of my ex-fiancés asking how I was doing. And that was just like, I'm not in bad terms with her, but it was just kind of nice to be like, wow, that's kind of weird. One door closes and then another one kind of just shows up and just asks how I'm doing. And sometimes that's all we want, is somebody to ask how we're doing, right? Somebody that we care about. So I think that was a positive thing. And today I had a childhood friend from Chicago add me on Facebook, and we just started chatting about life. So one door closes, another one opens, all I'm saying. And you just don't know when it's going to happen, but it will happen. I talked about this a lot. Just hang in there and be patient, right? It's your turn will eventually happen. Just like in any strategy game, your turn will eventually happen. Okay, so just be patient with that. And yeah, and that's all I want to say here. Thanks for tuning in, as always, to the Gaming Academy. And remember, every great player starts as a beginner. Every challenge is a chance to grow. And every loss is just XP for your next win. Keep pressing forward and stay inspired and game on until we see you next time. And I want to throw this in there because I'm loving the soundboard right now. And let me know if you young ones know where this is from.
Available for your home in 1995.
I love it. It's just so fun. So fun.
Great.
Also, thanks guys. I want to celebrate by giving you guys our new closing theme, which I'll be improving over the next couple of weeks. But we appreciate you guys as always. Like I said, follow us on all the socials and stuff. We love it. All right. Appreciate you guys. You guys have a good one. See you next time.
Class dismissed.